Hey, folks, here we go on a Thursday.
Calls me googly eyes.
You know you're beautiful, right? You know that?
Even you are beautiful. I got bullied for wearing glasses. Share if you're against bullying.
We put it out there, just took off. 3 million people have shared this post. Don't let bullies get you down. I stand with you. Our whole family's wearing glasses. I wear glasses and I'm proud.
I even have the army on my team.
All the kind comments brought my child joy. I don't feel thank you is enough.
Thanks.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where the ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
I wanted to find a bank with a purpose. I wanted to find a place that would take my money and not use it to cause the financial crisis, but to fix the financial crisis and to help end income inequality.
The people that we employ are usually clients right off the streets. They don't have an account, but Amalgamated is willing to get that started for them.
Their reputation supporting the working man, I think, speaks for itself. This is a bank that cares for their customers, and I appreciate that.
We were able to access a construction loan through the bank's programs, and that loan has helped us house 28 families in the community.
Amalgamated is a bank that was started for and about working people.
Many of our customers have a deep commitment to advocating for social and economic justice. We share that commitment, and we're not afraid to stand up and say that we need to change some of the way that the country does business.
I grew up in the housing projects of Cleveland. I didn't even know that life could be any better than it was. Education for me has been a way to get away from the agony of what was normal life. I want to be able to impact the community, not just look back on where I came from, but to reach back to where I came from and pull some people up with me. My name is David, and I am your dividend.
The most important issue on this planet right now is to protect and conserve biodiversity in the world's oceans. And I don't think people realize just how intimate our connection is with the oceans themselves. Not only do they provide the very foundation of life and control our weather, but life just simply could not exist without a healthy ocean. The real problem, though, is apathy. It's all out of sight. It's all out of mind, and people don't even think about it. But it doesn't matter whether you live in Peoria or on the coast. The fact is, whatever happens in the ocean affects all life forms on the planet Earth. If the oceans die, then civilization collapses. We all die. We cannot live on this planet without the oceans. This is, in fact, not the planet Earth. It's the planet ocean, but because we're a land-dwelling species, we refer to it as Earth. But it is the planet ocean, and the oceans are the heart and the foundation of all life on the planet.
Hey, folks, here we go on a Thursday, May 5. So good to see you today. It's great having you on board the Bill Press Express here, the Bill Press Show, where we cover the news of the day here in Washington, around the country, around the globe, and we give you a chance to sound off about it. We're here with you on Free Speech TV, of course, coast to coast, and you can check us out on our video stream worldwide. Doesn't matter where you are, in this country or anywhere on the planet. Go to youtube.com/Tawker, TawkrTV. And now there is only one left. Yep, John Kasich bowing out yesterday, joining Ted Cruz in giving up the fight, throwing in the towel. Donald Trump is the only one left standing. He will be the Republican nominee for president. Can you believe it? Less than a year after he came down that escalator at Trump Tower and announced he was going to build a wall and throw anybody here illegally out of the country. The only questions now are, will Donald Trump ever be able to unite the Republican Party? What will Republican candidates for House or for Senate do? Will they run with him or run away from him? And who the hell would ever agree to be his vice presidential nominee? Meanwhile, Bernie Sanders in it for the long haul, repeating again yesterday after a big upset in Indiana that he is going to do the right thing and give every Democrat in every state the chance to vote before he decides whether or not he could ever have enough delegates to win the nomination and take it away from a frontrunner Hillary Clinton. President Obama, on a dramatic visit to Flint, Michigan yesterday, actually took a drink of the filtered water in Flint to show that it is indeed safe to drink. All of that coming up. Give us a call at 866-55-PRESS and join the conversation. Good to have you on board.
This is the Bill Press Show.
"21. My father is run over by a car. He's passed out in the road with a blood alcohol content 4 times the legal limit. I do not cry. 4 months later, the nurses lose his pulse, and I wonder whose life flashed before his eyes. Rewinding VHS tapes, old home videos. 20. 19, I haven't brought a friend home in 4 years. 18, my mother sips the word divorce. Her mouth curls at the taste like it burns going down. 17, I start doing homework at Starbucks. I have more meaningful conversations with the barista than with my family. 16, I wait for Christmas Eve. My brother and I usually exchange gifts to one another early. This year, he and my father exchange blows. My mother doesn't go to Mass. 15, I come up with the theory that my father started drinking again because maybe he found out I'm gay. Like, if he could make everything else blurry, maybe somehow I'd look straight. 15. My mother cleans up his vomit in the middle of the night and cooks breakfast in the morning like she hasn't lost her appetite. 15. I blame myself. 15. My brother blames everyone else. 15. My mother blames the dog. 15. Super Bowl Sunday, my father bursts through the door like an avalanche, picking up speed and debris as he falls. Banisters, coffee tables, picture frames, tumbling, stumbling. I find his AA chip on the kitchen counter. 14. My father's been sober for 10, maybe 11 years. I just know we don't even think about it anymore. 13. 12. 11, Mom tells me Daddy's meetings are for AA. She asks if I know what that means. I don't. I nod anyway. 10. My parents never drink wine at family gatherings. All my other aunts and uncles do. I get distracted by the TV and forget to ask why. 9. 8. 7. 6. I want to be Spider-Man. Or my dad. They're kind of the same. 5. 4. 3. I have a nightmare. The recurring one about Ursula from The Little Mermaid. So I get up. I waddle toward Mommy and Daddy's room, blankie in hand. I pause. Daddy's standing in his underwear, silhouetted by a refrigerator light. He raises a bottle to his lips. 2. 1. 0. When my mother was pregnant with me, I wonder if she hoped, as so many mothers do, that her baby boy would grow up to be just like his father.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
They started out at 17, and now there is only one left. And you know who he is. Hey, hello, everybody. What do you say? Thursday, May 5. John Kasich just gets off the court the same way Ted Cruz had the night before, leaving the field to Donald Trump. The Bill Press Show on Thursday, May 5. Here we are. Washington, D.C. is our base, our nation's capital. On Capitol Hill, where else? You got to be where the action is, and we are just down the street from the United States Capitol building, although not a lot of action going on there this week. The House and the Senate are both out of town. I've been trying to figure out why. I don't know why, but they're not in town.
Any excuse to take a week off.
Exactly. President Obama has been in and out. Not a lot happening here, but a lot happening around the country, around the globe, and we're on top of all of it for you, as we are every day. Good to see you today on your local progressive talk radio station. You're looking good there on the radio, and you're looking good on TV, on Free Speech TV, coming to you live coast to coast, both on the radio and on television. And so good to have you with us with so much to talk about. So remember, you can join the conversation anytime. We love hearing from you at 866-55-PRESS. Love hearing from our regular callers and our new callers anywhere in this great land of ours. Join the conversation. It's easy. Just give us a call again at 866-55-PRESS. Or if you prefer a little anonymity, send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show and on Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. Hail, hail, the gang's all here. Peter Ogburn, Jamie Benson. Hello, hello.
Here we go.
Hey, good morning.
Yes, indeed. Ray Rogers on the job as our screener, ready to take your calls at 866-55-PRESS. And we're looking at you thanks to the good work of our videographer, Cyprian Bolding.
Happy May 5th, Cinco de Mayo.
Cinco de Mayo.
Cinco de Mayo all day long.
That's right.
Yes,
and happy birthday to my brother Joseph.
Hey, all right.
How about that?
Happy birthday.
Born on Cinco de Mayo in Mexico City. No, actually. In Wilmington, Delaware. But anyway, good. Hey, you know, I got to tell you, Carol was a happy camper last night.
Oh, my God.
Or yesterday afternoon. It was an afternoon game. Yes,
yeah.
indeed. You know, I don't have to follow the Nats because basically I've got somebody who's in the dugout every day with the play-by-play. It's not – I have Carol Press. The rest of the world has Charlie Slows.
Charlie Slows.
And a swing and a long drive to right field. Back Dyson to the warning track. He'll watch it go. It's a home run into the Nationals bullpen for Daniel Murphy. He's got a double, a single, and now a home run, his fourth of the year, his second home run of the series. And the Nationals lead at 11-2.
And they ended up 13-2. 6 runs in the first inning. Nats, they are red hot. I like that. Charlie Slows has a good voice.
He's good. He's really good. He's
really,
a really good.
And he doesn't go crazy. Like, well,
he's better than the TV crew.
He will. Yeah, he will on occasion. But you know, the thing about him is he reserves it for when it actually kind of matters.
Yes.
Right.
Good point.
A lot of these guys freak out at every little thing. He knows when it's a big deal, and he calls it like it's a big deal.
Don't I remember that the Royals are the world champs?
Yes, indeed.
Josh Ernest's team.
Yeah,
that's right. That's right.
Didn't look like it yesterday, right? All right. On a Thursday, Susan Page from USA will join us. Congressman Dan Kildee flew to Flint, Michigan with President Obama on Air Force One yesterday. President came back. Dan Kildee stayed there. He joins us to tell us all about what's happening in Flint. And we'll also get a rundown from a leader of the Democratic Senate Campaign Committee on which are the key Senate races that Democrats will win this year and take back the Senate. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. Reports are circulating that Caitlyn Jenner will be posing in Sports Illustrated nude. That is the word. Now, here's what's going to happen.
No, they can't do that.
Caitlyn Jenner is going to pose in Sports Illustrated with the American flag and with her gold medals that she got in the 1976 Summer Olympics when she was Bruce Jenner. Us Weekly is reporting this, which means it's probably true. They leak these things out to these places like that. So we'll have to wait and see what how that plays out and how well it goes.
Or we won't.
Yeah, look.
I hope the flag is draped over appropriate parts.
I would plan on that. I would imagine that's what's going to happen. Want to buy tobacco in California? You can't do it unless you're 21 now. That is the latest as the governor, Jerry Brown, raised the legal age to buy tobacco for smoking, dipping, chewing, and vaping from 18 to 21. Signed this into law yesterday. And he had pushed pretty hard for this.
Yeah,
he said it's,
good for him. I like that.
Yeah. The war on tobacco continues. Rightfully so. We are now in May, so the numbers are out for the month
No to tobacco, yes to pot. That's the.
There you go. That's the California way.
Right.
We're into May, so we have numbers on April and how many guns were purchased in April. And congratulations, America, the 12th month in a row that we have set a record for gun sales in this country. They use this off of the FBI numbers that run background checks. 2.14 million background checks were run in the month of April. People buying guns in the month of April. That is an all-time high. Like I said, it's the 12th month in a row that they've set a record for the most number of gun sales in a month.
That is so sick. I wish you hadn't told me that. Thank you.
Bummer of a story.
Yes, indeed. Hey, I got a question for you. This is a question a lot of people are asking, but I think they're coming up with the wrong answer. Question is, can Donald Trump, now that he is the Republican nominee, could he possibly actually win the White House? 866-55-PRESS. You tell me. Send us your comments on Twitter at BP Show and Facebook at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. As we get into that, of course, yesterday morning we reported that Ted Cruz had dropped out the night before without saying anything nice about the Donald. And that left John Kasich. And everybody said, well, it looks like Casey is going to continue because he had a media availability scheduled here in Washington, D.C. yesterday and some pseudo-campaign event. And reportedly, Kasich, the plane was waiting, and Kasich said, you know what? I just don't have my heart in it anymore. I'm not getting on that plane. They canceled that event, scheduled a news conference in Columbus, Ohio yesterday, where Kasich announced he was suspending his campaign, but he was confident that he'd find a way forward.
As I suspend my campaign today, I have renewed faith, deeper faith, that the Lord will show me the way forward and fulfill the purpose of my life.
Well, he also said earlier, of course, that it was the Lord who told him he should run for president. So I think there's a little static on John Kasich's Lord line.
Yeah, the Lord, she works in mysterious ways.
Yeah, he's getting some mixed messages from her in that case. But the presumptive nominee was out there doing the rounds on the media yesterday. He appeared with Wolf Blitzer yesterday afternoon on CNN. And said, Wolf tried to say, so you're going to back down from any of these things that you said during the primary, like banning all Muslims from the United States?
And I'll tell you, we have a really big problem where we're letting in thousands and thousands of people supposedly from Syria, but we have no idea where they're coming from. We have no idea. The migration is a disaster. We're letting in thousands of people. They don't have documentation. They don't have paperwork. Nobody knows who they are, where they come from, and they're coming into this country.
So you're sticking with this temporary ban?
Until we figure out what's going on. We have to be very tough. We have to be very vigilant.
Sticking with that ban, yes, indeed, not backing down. Earlier in the day, George Stephanopoulos asked him, okay, what about a VP? Who you going to be looking for?
I would like to have somebody that could truly be good with respect to dealing with the Senate, dealing with Congress, getting legislation passed, working toward something where we're not signing executive orders every 3 days like President Obama does.
Aha. Let's see. He needs somebody who gets along with Congress and is respected on both sides of the aisle, who has some experience there, who knows how to get things done, who can deliver. Is Joe Biden available? It sounds like Biden, doesn't it?
It sure does.
Yeah. I mean,
does.
Yeah, exactly. But that gets us back to, and of course, Donald Trump made the rounds yesterday, including, leading up to, I should say, maybe, nightly news, NBC nightly news, which I tuned into last night and was stunned to see. Why should I have been? I should not have been, but I was still stunned to see that Lester Holt anchored nightly news last night from New York. Yes. From the NBC studios, 30 Rock? No. Anchored the nightly news from Trump Tower.
Bruh.
And he gave a couple of headlines, did a little roundup of the political news of the day, and then he was actually in Donald Trump's office. When I say Trump Tower, he anchored it from Donald Trump's office, high up in the Trump Tower, and then he sat down live at the top of the news with Donald Trump in an 8-minute interview. They basically gave away their broadcast, their nightly news to Donald Trump last night. I thought it was a fitting end to this primary campaign that the media that created Donald Trump should crown him the nominee, and in effect, now that they made him the nominee, try to make him the president of the United States.
That is disgusting.
Hook, line, and sinker.
Totally.
Yeah.
Y'all got played.
Yeah. All got played. And you know what? I know why the media is doing it, because of the ratings, but look what we got because of it. Look what we got, right? What have they given us? The media enablers have given us the least experienced, the least qualified, the least knowledgeable candidate for president, and the most obnoxious and the most outrageous that we've ever seen in our lifetime. And they've made him the nominee of the Republican Party. Yeah. They got the ratings. Donald Trump got the free media. And look what the American people got, right?
At the Correspondents' Dinner the other night, the president had a very funny a speech, but there was a moment that he didn't laugh, and it didn't come across as a joke, even though everybody laughed. And he made the point, he says, about how you can't get enough of Donald Trump. And he looked out at the audience, made up of media types. He says, "Are you proud of yourselves?"
I hope you're proud of yourselves.
Yeah.
Yes. And there was only painful laughter because everybody knew it was a got you. But that leads to the question, though, which is the serious question today facing all of us, and that is, I want your answers on this. Be honest. Do you think Donald Trump, we make fun of him, we complain about him, we are outraged by him, but could he win? Now, I know what most people are saying today. Most political commentators and almost, I'd say 99.99999% of Democrats, starting with everybody in the Hillary campaign, they're all saying, no way he could win. This is so great. Oh, my God. We're so lucky we're running against Donald Trump. It's going to be a breeze. Man, he's going to lose women. He's going to lose African Americans. He's going to lose young people. He's going to lose across the board. He can never win. He's going to be worse than Barry Goldwater was. And we're going to win all 50 states. I know that's what most people are saying. I hear it every day from everybody I talk to, just about, and everybody I see on television or listen to on the radio. Let me tell you something. I think they're dead wrong. Dead wrong. I think Donald Trump could win. Figure it out this way. First of all, there are two candidates, right? There's going to be two candidates. Probably, I hate to say it, I don't hate to say it, but probably accept it. It'll be Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. Okay? So starting out, he's got a 50-50 chance.
Yeah, those are good odds right off the bat.
Starting out, right? He's not one of 17 anymore. He's one of 2 candidates, right? Number 2, a lot of Republicans don't like him, but you know who they like less? You know who they hate more? Hillary Clinton. They want the White House back. They haven't had it for 8 years. They will hold their nose and vote for Michael Savage if they had to. They'd vote for that idiot Ben Carson if they had to, rather than vote for Hillary Clinton. This idea that Republicans are going to line up and vote for Hillary Clinton is total pie in the sky, total pipe dream. Ain't going to happen.
Yeah,
right?
There are a couple who will, but if you think that it's going to be a mass exodus because they just can't stand the stink of Donald Trump, that they're going to vote for Hillary, it's not true.
Right. So that's the second reason. The third reason to think about this is we have 2 candidates, both of whom are very unpopular in this country. Hillary Clinton's unfavorables. I don't understand why. I mean, she's been under attack for all these years, so some of that is stuck, right? I personally like her, but the fact is her unfavorables are like around 55%, and Donald Trump's are around 60%, or maybe about the same. So the 2 of them are equally unpopular in this country. So there's no edge there. You know, we may not like that, but a lot of people don't like Hillary. A lot of Democrats don't like Hillary. Her unpopular and his and her unfavorables are just about the same.
And if you look at how we treated Donald Trump at the beginning of the Republican primary and how a lot of Hillary supporters are treating Donald Trump now as we enter the general election, it's not that much different. And look at what happened.
Yeah. So let's talk about it. I got one more big reason. I'll tell you why I think he could win. But we'll take a quick break here and then get your calls at 866-55-PRESS. It's just a easy question. Maybe a tough one to figure out. Yes or no? Do you think Donald Trump could possibly win? Yes or no? And why or why not? 866-55-PRESS. You're on.
Your progressive headquarters for the 2016 election. This is the Bill Press Show.
On opening body bags after Typhoon Haiyan. I can only imagine it like unearthing a scab. Zipper breaks open one by one. Mothers trying to dig through themselves an umbilical cord to lend life to a limp ghost. There is not enough relief here to hide the scent of what this child used to be. The coconut trees are not high enough to see over the inside out that was made here. Bags do not have the honor of being called burial plots. Churches ain't supposed to be mausoleums. Tacloban was morphed into ground zero. And I watch this while it snows in Madison, Wisconsin, a place where it's easier to live as a rodent than it is to be a colored person. This place drowns my people in a different way. I inhabit both places like Jigsaw corpse trying to find itself whole. These brown boys in Tacloban aren't my cousins, but I want to carry them to safety. These brown girls in Tacloban aren't my daughters, but I want to tell them they're still growing after this choking, but I'm still an ocean away, a language farther from root, a skin tone lighter than the sand, born there, raised here, home nowhere. To watch this storm is a sorry excuse for mourning. It is to need the sun desperately. It is to realize that your body is in one country while your grief is in another. To look at your house, walk to a river, and come back to no house is to be Filipino. To look at your motherland hurting from a TV screen is to be Filipino American. To watch my islands through the blue eyes of Anderson Cooper is the most American I have ever felt, but I still cry for them. And I still pray for them because God tried to make them Atlantis before they were ready to be a myth just yet, because rebuilding is the Filipinos' most intrinsic muscle memory but most painful trauma, because relief is just a word whose Tagalog translation I don't even know, because this poem is all I can give for my country bleeding in salt water. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord keeps trying to drown us. Hallowed be thy bodies, thy kingdom come down in waves and winds, on earth as it is destroyed. Take us this day our daily rations, and forgive those who have tried to kill us, as we forgive those who have tried to kill us. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us whose skin has always meant sin now, and at the hour of our death. Amen.
I grew up in the housing projects of Cleveland. I didn't even know that life could be any better than it was. Education for me has been a way to get away from the agony of what was normal life. I want to be able to impact the community, not just look back on where I came from, but to reach back to where I came from and pull some people up with me. My name is David, and I am your dividend.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, 26 minutes after the hour, it's the big question. It is the question of the moment. The most important question of all, I think, is yesterday it was, oh my God, Donald Trump is the Republican nominee. Today, the question is, oh my God, could he possibly win? I mean, could you see a scenario where Donald Trump shows up at the North Portico of the White House in January 2017, and he goes in and has coffee with Barack Obama, and the two of them get in the limousine and come up to Capitol Hill, and Mr. Tangerine walks out and gives the inaugural address?
I don't know. I don't even know how to even imagine that. The one thing I will say,
I would be so embarrassed I couldn't watch it or show up or whatever.
Yeah. The one thing I will say I'm very excited to see is Barack Obama campaigning against Donald Trump.
That'll be good.
Because that's the biggest, greatest weapon that the Democrats have to beat Donald Trump. Because he takes it personally.
Right. So we said the reasons I think he could win this. Number one, he's got a 50-50 chance to start with. Both he and Hillary are extremely unpopular. The media will be his darling. He will be the media darling again. They will try to make him president because they want him in the White House. And the other thing is, and think about this, I mean, Donald Trump's success is that he ran against the Republican establishment. He is everything but politics as usual. People want an outsider today. And he is the ultimate outsider, and Hillary Clinton, God love her, but she is the ultimate insider. This could happen, folks.
This is the Bill Press Show.
The most important issue on this planet right now is to protect and conserve biodiversity in the world's oceans. And I don't think people realize just how intimate our connection is with the oceans themselves. Not only do they provide the very foundation of life and control our weather, but life just simply could not exist without a healthy ocean. The real problem, though, is apathy. It's all out of sight. It's all out of mind, and people don't even think about it. But it doesn't matter whether you live in Peoria or on the coast. The fact is, whatever happens in the ocean affects all life forms on the planet Earth. If the oceans die, then civilization collapses. We all die. We cannot live on this planet without the oceans. This is, in fact, not the planet Earth. It's the planet ocean, but because we're a land-dwelling species, we refer to it as Earth. But it is the planet ocean, and the oceans are the heart and the foundation of all life on the planet.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where the ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine, Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora,
Fort Hood, Oak Creek, Newtown.
Newtown,
Newtown.
Newtown.
How many more? How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough. 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 Enough.
Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad, as a friend, as a husband,
As a wife.
as an American.
As an American.
As an American. As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook. Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act. Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. You know, but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, you know, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where the ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get fire adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Thursday, May 5. It is the Bill Press Show, and we are weighing the possibility and maybe dreading the possibility that you can't deny it. I mean, just the way things play out in a political campaign, anything could happen. Could Donald Trump win? Yes, he could. In fact, Politico has a very interesting story this morning outlining 12 different signs that Donald Trump could win the presidency this year. Some of them, the ones that we mentioned, the fact that it's a 50-50 shot to start with, the fact that both he and Hillary Clinton are equally unpopular. Yes, he's unpopular, but so is she. Their unfavorables are very high. The fact that he is the ultimate anti-establishment candidate, and Hillary Clinton is the ultimate establishment candidate. And then the fourth one, which we really should talk more about too, the fact that he is such a darling of the media. They, remember, it was last March that somebody calculated that he had received $2 billion in free media, the equivalent of $2 billion in free media. Whereas,
and that was a couple months ago.
Yeah, that
I'm
was
sure
a couple months ago. Since then,
Yeah.
it is way higher. That was in March.
Yeah.
Okay, here we are in May. And at the time, if you compare that to Hillary Clinton, maybe Hillary Clinton, as popular and as well-known as she is, maybe $500,000 in free media. And Bernie Sanders, less than that, maybe $300,000. So not for some reason, for the reason that Donald Trump is so good for the ratings, the media have adopted him. And even, like, for example, the Sunday shows. There's a phrase here in Washington called the full Ginsburg, right? And that was William Ginsburg, who was Monica Lewinsky's attorney, was the first one to appear on all 5 Sunday morning shows in one day, live. And he did it by car and driver and figuring out the timing and running around to each one, okay? That's sort of the ultimate trick in Washington media coverage, okay? Donald Trump did it several times, but he did it by phone. He did it by calling them. There is nobody else that could do that by phone. They would not take the President of the United States on the phone, 5 different shows.
No.
And we see it here because we got the monitors for Fox and CNN and MSNBC in our studio, and we watch them every morning, of course, see what they're doing while we're talking about the issues of the day. And day after day, Donald Trump is on the phone live. Donald Trump is on the phone, and he'll bounce from one cable network to the other, and they'll give him 10 or 15 minutes on the phone.
Yeah. One of the things that gives me a little bit of optimism about this is the way that the media loves to build people up only to bring them back down again.
Yes, but I want to know when they're going to start tearing down.
That's what I was
going to
say, Wiki. If you're going to do the tearing down, now is the time. And what I fear is, if you do have a general election where it's Donald Trump versus Hillary Clinton, Donald Trump is, and we just have to admit this, is just way more entertaining. And I know that that's not a great way to look at how we consume our news, but Donald Trump, if you're a TV executive or a TV producer and you're in it for the ratings and the ratings only, Donald Trump will get you ratings.
He delivers.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. He delivers for them. They deliver for him. And that's why Nightly News, again, last night, NBC Nightly News, basically gave him their entire broadcast. And they broadcast live from his office.
Crazy.
And sat down for 8 minutes with him. What if they had done that for Hillary Clinton? What if they had done that for Bernie Sanders?
Can you
By
imagine?
The way, the President of the United States doesn't get that kind of coverage. Seriously, doesn't get that kind of coverage. So, man, I got to tell you, they're in the tank for Donald Trump. They have made him the nominee, and now they will try to make him the President of the United States. And even the coverage when Donald Trump has said something really, really outrageous, right? The coverage always is of the variety, Can you believe what Donald Trump said today?
Mm-hmm.
It's never of the variety. This man should never be taken seriously as a presidential candidate, and we ought to just start ignoring him because he's so over the top. So I call them the enablers, right, of the Donald Trump presidential campaign, a Donald Trump nomination, in effect. Up in Ithaca, New York. Hello, Helen.
Good morning.
Helen.
You know, I agree with what you said, your estimation that there is a great probability that Donald Trump could become the next president. And that's why I think we should push for Bernie Sanders. But another thing that he has in his pocket is with the Hillary Clinton not refusing to release the speeches that she gave to Goldman Sachs and other Wall Street donors, you know. He has access to Wall Street. He's got friends there too. He's going to use everything he can against her, and use his like as far as like what do you want to call it, emotional intelligence or social skills. You know, as much of a jerk that I think the guy is, he's got it over her, and he's going to use that against her. And he might. And he's a populist. He might get the vote. You know.
Yeah.
And
Yes, he does. He has that populist, anti-establishment, anti-politics as usual appeal. But Helen touches on something that we also ought to throw out there and get your comments on. Which, before I get that, is first, you got to admit, yes, the media has created him, but he is also very skillful in how he uses the media.
Yes,
I'm telling you,
nobody's better.
He plays them like a violin. Absolutely. Like making himself available for Nightly last night. He was on all the cable shows yesterday morning by phone. He was on ABC today, not the Today Show, but this ABC Good Morning GMA yesterday morning. And he was on CNN with Wolf Blitzer live last night. I mean, he did all of those, and that's better than spending a dime, you know, on any paid ad or anything.
And the media loves that.
They love having him, and they'll take him. They'll take him anytime. So, but Helen, let's just throw this in the mix too for your calls. Something else you might want to speak to is Helen touched on the fact that this is why we need Bernie Sanders, and that's the other question is, who would be now? Again, looks like it's going to be Hillary, but it's not too late to ask the question: who would be the stronger candidate against Donald Trump, Hillary or Bernie? And the fact that Donald Trump is an outsider and Hillary is the ultimate insider, I think argues that Bernie Sanders would be in a better position to take Donald Trump on in his own territory. I know, remember, Peter, you weren't with us. Cyprian was with us when we were in Chicago. I met with a lot of the labor leaders out there at WCPT. Several of them told us that their members, they go down the floor of the assembly plant or whatever. Their members are all for Bernie. They're all for Bernie, but they're all saying, if it's not Bernie, we're going to vote for Donald Trump. You know, because there's that sort of same crossover appeal.
Yeah,
they're wrong to do that because Donald Trump has shut the unions down in a flash, but there's a real risk there. So we're talking about two questions: could Donald Trump possibly win? Back to your calls in just a second. 866-55-PRESS. And who would be better at making sure he doesn't win, Hillary or Bernie, on the Democratic ticket? 866-55-PRESS, the Bill Press Show this Thursday, May 5.
Get social with Bill Press. Like us at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. This is the Bill Press Show.
For my 6th birthday, my grandpa gave me a Rubik's Cube. I'll always be able to remember its edges, hold it in my hands, heft the weight of an overwhelming problem. I remember him telling me about it. How Rubik's Cube has 43 quintillion, 252 quadrillion, 3 trillion, 274 billion, 489,856,000 possibilities. He told me it can be really confusing sometimes. but to look at the center squares as a reminder of what color each side should be. Shift. We're celebrating his 50th wedding anniversary. He and Grandma are dancing a dance that only fragile legs and wrinkled hands know how to. That type of happiness took him 70 years to earn. The white side of the cube is solved. Shift. He tells me about how he met Grandma. His college friends had a sunset picnic. She was there, as beautiful as an unsolved puzzle. She was a red-headed scramble on an orange tile sky. Shift. The walls of the hospital are blue. The nurses explain that his memories had become jumbled. Strangers in family portraits, pictures with mismatched faces. Alzheimer's has made his mind into a Rubik's Cube. Shift. He's a highway patrolman. His car is white. No, it's blue. He worked there for 30 years. Some nights he still does. Time is a complicated algorithm. Shift. The pills he holds are yellow and red and green. The weight of their color causes his hand to drop. I try to shift his tiles back into place, but people don't have center squares. His mind is a hospital bed divided by 0. Shift. My sister's wedding is white, but he doesn't know why. Shift. World War II is every color. The South Pacific is blue. The islands are green. There is so much red. Shift. Grandpa, table, cube, name, scramble, California, guitar, grapefruit, highway, wedding bell, war, stick shift rifles, South Pacific mirrors, shift, 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 shift. The temperature of his hands is blue. Death is colorless. I will always remember his edges. Hold him in my hands, heft the weight of an overwhelming problem. I was unable to attend his funeral. I never found out the algorithm to solve him. A Rubik's Cube has over 43 quintillion possibilities. A casket only has one.
Streaming live video right now at youtube.com/TawkrTV. That's TAWKR-TV. This is The Bill Press Show.
All right, 13 minutes before the top of the hour on a Thursday, May 5. Starting off this day as we wake up to the reality that Donald Trump, now that John Kasich has bowed out, that Donald Trump is in fact the Republican nominee. Could Donald Trump possibly win? And what role has the media played in getting him where he is? What role will the media play now? By the way, Donald Trump, yesterday, he, you know the number to call, 866-55-PRESS to get into the conversation here. Yesterday, he did talk a little bit about, he was asked about John Kasich. In fact, when he was on with John Kasich, who bowed out yesterday afternoon, as we mentioned, he was informed, actually, on the set of CNN. He didn't know. It was Wolf Blitzer who told him that Kasich had just dropped out.
You're the only one left right now. That's good. That's good. You're just telling me this for the first time about John, and that's good. I think John's doing the right thing.
And, well, let me see. Would John have any future with you? Maybe vice presidential candidate?
I would be interested in vetting John. I like John. I've had a good relationship with John. I've gotten along with him well. But John, whether he's vice president or not, I think he'll be very, very helpful with Ohio.
This is funny. Trump always says, I get along with him well. Yeah, we're good friends. Marco Rubio, we're good friends. Ted Cruz, we're good friends. Yeah. John Kasich, we're good friends.
We're very good friends.
After all the stuff they said about him, I'm telling you, it's just crazy. Hillary Clinton put out a great ad yesterday where she just had Republicans dumping all over Donald Trump. And I saw last on CBS News, unlike NBC, they didn't hand their broadcast over to Donald Trump. But they had a very good montage of a year in a minute, because it was June 16 when Donald Trump announced. This is 11 months, actually, not 12 months, but they call it a year in a minute. And it was a minute montage of totally outrageous things that Donald Trump had said,
Yeah.
starting with June 16, when he said, they're bringing in drugs, they're bringing in crime, they're rapists.
Rapists and murderers.
Rapists and murderers, right.
That, I think, is an interesting point of if Donald Trump wins, right? Like, if he has a chance of winning, I think a lot of it is going to have to do with what kind of support he gets from the Republicans, right? And from what we can tell now, they're lining up. They are lining up to support Donald Trump. You've already had a lot of people go on record and say, we will support the nominee of the party,
Right.
even though we now know it's Donald Trump.
I did see a flash headline this morning. I haven't had a chance to check it out yet, that neither President Bush will endorse Trump or campaign for him.
Yeah. Yeah. The Bushes are going to stay out of this.
Yeah.
But like Mitch McConnell, Tim Scott, a lot of these Republicans, establishment Republicans, Lindsey Graham hasn't said anything yet. He's probably been the loudest anti-Trump Republican. But they're all lining up and saying we're going to support him.
John McCain has said that Donald Trump on the ticket endangers John McCain's chances for re-election in Arizona. Dana is on the line from Virginia Beach. Hi, Dana. What do you think?
Yes, I think that Donald Trump can win the election. However, if we allow him to win that election, what I'm doing in all my power to stop him from doing it is I approach young kids on the street. I carry around a bunch of voter registration applications. I fill them out, follow up with them, get their phone numbers, and make sure that they get out and vote. Because listening to a clip that you had on earlier, Donald Trump sounds like he's already going to relinquish his responsibilities to his vice president because he wants to run his businesses and be president.
I hadn't thought of it. Yeah, I hadn't thought of it that way, but pardon me. I think I think he would take advantage of the presidency to probably make some big business deals.
You're damn right he will.
And build some new towers. And I remember, Dana, it's good to hear from you. And you're doing the right thing. That's a great thing to do. Good for you. And I hope you continue all the way up to as long as we can register people to vote in, particularly young people to vote in November. Early on, maybe it was last June.
Mm-hmm.
My wife's cousin actually sent me a funny little cartoon of what the White House would look like with Trump in it, and it's got the White House, but it's about 15 stories tall, and it has a great big T on top of it, right? They just took the White House and just raised it, right? Like another Trump Tower, right in the heart of Washington, D.C. Oh, my God. There's already one on Pennsylvania Avenue, the old post office building. Anita down in San Antonio, Texas. Hi, Anita. Hello, Anita. All right, she's coming.
Anita?
No. No.
Maybe she's still
We
bummed
lost
out.
her.
Maybe she's still bummed out about that Spurs loss the other day.
Oh, do you think so?
It's got to be it.
No.
It's gotta be
Anita's a good friend. By the way, just to put a final point on this about his ownership, if you will, of the American media. He's the only guy who could get in an absolute pissing contest with Fox News and win it. I mean,
excellent point.
Right? Fox News, banned him because of the things he said about Megyn Kelly, and then they went crawling back to him and said, "Please, Donald, please come back on our network." And Megyn Kelly has this now big interview that they've announced, and he's been back, of course, on O'Reilly and on Sean Hannity's show and all the rest. He brought Fox News to their knees. Yeah.
That's an excellent point. He's
right.
He's bigger than Fox.
So you are... and
he's bigger than the Republican Party, too, for that matter.
Totally. You wonder, how did Donald Trump get where he is today? You can thank his enablers. You can thank the media. We'll be right back.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
Every day when I was 5, my older sister would play teacher. Her students were me, my stuffed rabbit, and an American Girl doll. She'd line us up at the end of the bed and teach us whatever she'd learned in school that day. Now she teaches ESL at an elementary school in Boston, and every week she tells me stories about her students. Anna does not know how to read in Spanish, much less English, but she still wants to be a writer when she grows up. Juan chooses to stay inside and study at recess so that one day he'll be able to teach his own brother. These kids are good organs in a sick body. In 2001, No Child Left Behind gutted bilingual education. Students who have been in the country for 1 year are now expected to perform at grade level on standardized English tests. My sister is not allowed to instruct them in Spanish. If the kids don't jump high enough, the school loses money. Improving a school by picking its pockets is like tuning a guitar by ripping off the strings. Learning to read in a new language before you can even read in your own is like learning to walk while a pit bull is chasing you. Like learning to sing with the conductor's fist down your throat. This year for my sister's birthday, I got books for her students. A poem on one page in Spanish, the next in English. She is not allowed to help them read the first. Their heritage is a banned book. Learning to read in a new language when you can't even read in your own is like trying to heal a burn victim by drowning them. We are telling these children who have spent their whole lives in the deep end that they'll learn how to swim if they just float out a little farther. In the 1980s, American slaughterhouses began building corrals in curves so no animals could see the blood at the end of the tracks. This is how we kept them moving forward. In 2001, we began building the hallways of our schools in curves. This is how we keep them moving forward. You never learn, you fail the test. You never learn, you fail the test. You never learn, you drop out. I know. I am lucky enough to be one of the winners of this game. I was handed a head start and a rule book in my own tongue, but the winners of a rigged game should not get to write the rules. On the television, some senator preaches that throwing money at an urban school is like feeding caviar to your dog. They just won't know how to appreciate it. After all, if these parents can't take care of their own children, why should we? Well, tell that to Anna, who has my sister translate newsletters aloud to her father because he too was never taught how to read. Tell that to Juan, whose mother and baby brother are still in Guatemala, whose father works 3 jobs. My sister tells me school is the most stable place in these kids' lives. She has been a teacher since she was smaller than they are. But since when does being a teacher mean having to swear not to help? Since when does being a teacher mean having your hands tied while the schoolhouse burns to the ground? We are leading these children along a track built in circles as their lungs fill with smoke, telling them it is their fault. They can't find a way out.
Dylan Garrity from Slam MN.
Oh, he knows, and he'll tell us all about it. Top of the next hour.
We hear about these stories all the time, but Donald Trump on the campaign trail. I know it's more Donald Trump, but he's out on the campaign trail and he plays music before his events, right?
Yeah.
And one of the songs that he plays is "You Can't Always Get What You Want" by the Rolling Stones. And they are upset about that. They issued a statement, said, quote, "The Rolling Stones have never given permission to the Trump campaign to use their songs and requested that they cease all use immediately." They also said that Trump has played 2 other Rolling Stones songs before
That's a great song, though. I love that
great song. Brown Sugar and Sympathy
Oh,
for the Devil
Brown Sugar. Oh,
have
God.
both been played at Trump rallies, and the Rolling Stones are saying, we want absolutely nothing to do with Trump. Stop using our music. So, there you go.
Well, you know what? He'll sue them.
That's right. That's right.
There's all this universe lawsuit.
This is the Bill Press Show.
You wouldn't let money just blow out of your house. So when your AC or heater is on, make sure the doors, windows, and fireplace flue are shut tight. If you're headed out, turn down the AC or lower the heat by 10 degrees. And always keep your water heater set at 120. A little bit of common sense goes a long way. Get more great tips at energysaver.gov.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
All right, guys, I want to take the last part of the day to change our focus and talk a little bit about water. There's rivers, there's lakes, there's huge oceans. You get thirsty, you just go and you get some water, right? We rely on rain for our water. We even rely on snow. But what if it doesn't rain? What if it doesn't snow? We have to get the word out about water conservation. I want you to tell your parents, your friends, your neighbors, how important it is to save water. It's up to you guys to save the planet. All right? What if it doesn't rain? What if it doesn't snow? We have to get the word out about water conservation. It's up to you guys to save the planet.
Hi, I'm Mark LaFleur, and I produced the short film you just watched called Aquaforce. California is experiencing one of the worst droughts it's ever had, and now, more than ever, it's important for everyone to do their part to help conserve water. The reason I made this film is because I wanted to make something fun and informative that would get people talking about the California drought. Obviously, this is an important issue because we have a limited amount of clean drinking water. I think it was very important to let people know, especially young people, that this is an important resource, maybe our most important resource, and it's something that we can't take for granted and we certainly can't waste. I really wanted this to be something that children would respond to. The kind of thing that any kid anywhere in the world, no matter what language they speak, could understand the story and be entertained by it and leave it knowing that this is something important, that if they didn't already know about this, that it's now going to be a part of the way that they think about water, the way that they live life, and that it's something that they'll share with their friends. The fact that they watch this video once or twice and they immediately understand that water is important, that's it. That was the whole point of this thing, to get it into the conversation, to make it something that kids are thinking about, talking about, that they're aware of, and that they know is important. This project was self-funded, so we relied on the support of our community to make it happen. It was pretty amazing to just have our neighbors, our friends, and our coworkers come together and volunteer their time and their homes and their kids to make this thing happen. Thanks for checking out the video. Keep the Aquaforce going, and thanks for watching Free Speech TV.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
And now there are none left except Donald Trump. John Kasich dropping out yesterday, clearing the field, and down from 17 to 1 in less than a year. Hello, everybody. Great to see you today. Thursday, May 5. How about it? We're coming to you live from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, our studio right here on Capitol Hill, reaching out to you nationwide, coast to coast, on the radio and on television. On the radio, on your local progressive talk radio station. And those of you not lucky enough to have a progressive talk radio station in your hometown, you can find us, of course, and probably listening on one of the two great radio apps, iTunes, iHeartRadio, or TuneIn. Both of them are free. Download them, and there we are, following you on the radio anywhere you go in this country. And we're looking at you on Free Speech TV and worldwide on our video stream, TawkrTV. Thanks for joining us today. Lots going on. Our entire team in place here. Peter Ogburn and Jamie Benson.
Hello, Bill.
Good morning.
Keep us up to date. Ray Rogers, ready to take your calls. The number 866-55-PRESS. You know it by now. And Cyprian Bolding, our videographer, on the job as well. And we welcome back to the studio a good friend from Politico to talk national defense, national security issues, Jeremy Herb. Hello, Jeremy.
Thanks for having me.
Everything good?
Oh, yeah.
Good. Keeping up with this rush of political events?
Plenty to keep us busy.
I know, indeed. And plenty to keep me busy today, because I am heading right after the show out to see all of our good friends in Madison, Wisconsin, and all thereabouts. All of the good listeners to 92.1 The Mic. Very, very excited to get back to Madison. Haven't been there in 2 or 3 years. And our big event together, public event, come on down and say hello. I don't want to come all the way out there without seeing you. Tomorrow morning, Friday morning, 7 to 9 a.m., I'll be there at the North Side Restaurant in the Northgate Shopping Center. I don't know where that is, but you must know where that is. Somebody's going to get me there. But
Find him.
7 to 9. John Nichols from The Nation magazine is going to be there. We're going to have a nice town hall. We'll talk Bernie, we'll talk Hillary, we'll talk Donald Trump, and we'll talk my new book, Buyer's Remorse, with John Nichols from The Nation magazine and all of our good friends from 92.1 The Mic. So really looking forward to that, and see you tomorrow morning. By the way, so now we know, I think basically who as Jimmy Fallon pointed out last night, it's been a rocky road, but we sort of like the dust to settle. We know who the two nominees are going to be.
After last night's Indiana primary, it's starting to look like we finally have our two candidates for president. That's right. It's down to uh-oh versus I guess.
That is awfully real.
Oh, that kind of sums it up, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Ouch. Yeah, indeed. All right. Well, so we'll talk national security with Jeremy here at the top of the hour. Congressman Dan Kildee joins us from Flint, Michigan at the half hour. And in the next hour, we're going to get a rundown on the key Senate races for 2016. But first,
this is the Full Court Press.
Just a couple of other stories making news. Yes, indeed, the Kardashian clan is on vacation. They went to Cuba. Kim Kardashian, Khloe Kardashian, and the others. I don't know the rest of them. But Congresswoman from Florida, Ileana Ross-Lehtinen, you know how much she...
Yeah. She's not going to be on any of those cruise ships to Cuba.
She will not be visiting Cuba.
No.
But I will give her this. She is not a big fan of the Kardashians going to Cuba. Now, they're there on vacation. They're also filming for their show, Keeping Up with the Kardashians. Ileana Ross-Lehtinen writing, haven't the Cuban people suffered enough as the Kardashians are there? So she's clearly not a big fan of either of those things. So good for her. I'm with her on that.
I am too on that one. Right.
The NFL sent out a very interesting memo to its players earlier this week. They warned them, telling them not to eat too much meat that comes from China or Mexico. They say that meat that comes from China and Mexico could be contaminated with anabolic agent clenbuterol, which is banned by the league's performance-enhancing substances policy. So they're saying that this meat is treated with this stuff, and if you eat a lot of it, it'll show up in your system when you go take a drug test to play in the NFL, and they're saying you could fail it just because you ate a lot of meat from those two places.
It's going to be in a Donald Trump speech soon of China, Mexico.
Yeah. There it is.
This is tailor-made for Donald Trump. Yes, don't eat the meat from China or Mexico.
Where would you have to go? What kind of a restaurant to get meat from China?
You'd be surprised, actually.
Really?
Yeah, you would be surprised.
I don't want to know. Okay.
And how about this? In Botswana, back in November, they found, people who were looking for this in a diamond mine, the second largest diamond ever. It is called the Lesedi La Rona, which means in Botswana, it translates to our light. It is 1,109 carats of rough diamond. It's the biggest one they found in 100 years. Now, they're set to put this up to auction at Sotheby's London in June, and so we'll see how much it goes for there. But they say that whoever buys this giant diamond will probably break it up into other diamonds, so it won't last long. It's not like the Hope diamond that stayed intact.
It's hard to believe they're still mining diamonds.
Still mining for diamonds,
like
yeah.
This? Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I wonder what the miners get paid in Botswana.
Oh, I don't even want to know.
No.
I don't get paid at all.
All right, you got it. 12 minutes after the hour, Jeremy. There's so many issues this week. That's why I'm so glad you were able to come in. First of all, let's talk about the tragic death, loss of a Navy SEAL this week, Charlie Keating IV, whose grandfather was the famous Charlie Keating, who actually went to prison in the savings and loan scandal. Don't hold that against the grandson. He, brave Navy SEAL over there, putting on the uniform to defend all of us, paid the ultimate sacrifice. But it did raise the question of how many American troops do we have in Iraq, and exactly what is their mission?
Yeah, that's right. The White House still says that while this Navy SEAL was in combat, he was not in a combat mission, which is a little difficult to reconcile with the fact that with the way the Pentagon described it, he was very much in combat all day long. This was a day-long firefight after ISIS invaded this town kind of north of Mosul, and the SEALs responded. There were some already there, and Mr.
Right.
Keating came as kind of a second wave to try and drive these guys out of town, and they were in a firefight all day long, which is about as much combat as you can get.
I have to tell you, I felt sorry for Josh Earnest on Tuesday at the press briefing, kind of tap dancing around this question. And he actually said, yes, he was in combat. He was killed in combat. He was in a combat zone.
Yep.
But he was not there on a combat mission. Therefore, he was not boots on the ground.
And I think we're going to... we're going to hear more of this from the White House as, these operations ramp up. The Pentagon has said that they want to get more aggressive and try and actually get on the offensive here, take back Mosul. And I think what that means is we're going to see more troops closer to the front lines. This was about 2 miles away from what's defined as the front line here after ISIS broke through. But it's likely, we are going to, even if we're not in an official combat mission, we are going to see our troops closer to combat and in combat.
I mean, the reports I saw on this, I mean, it's pretty scary. I mean, this ISIS, they're not just a ragtag bunch of volunteers. I mean, they had 2 truck bombs go through the gates. Then they had bulldozers come through and clear the wreckage. And then they had 2 more truck bombs drive in. I mean, that's a sophisticated operation.
It is. It absolutely is. This is... They've shown that they are a capable fighting force. They obviously drove out the Iraq army. They've taken over a third or so of Syria, and I think we're seeing that now. The Kurdish fighters, along with the help from the SEALs and U.S. air power, were able to drive them out of this town at the end of the day.
Right.
So that's a positive sign still, but it's not going to be a simple operation to drive them out like we saw maybe in Afghanistan in 2002, driving out the Taliban.
All right. How many Americans do we have in non-combat posts inside of Iraq?
Depends who you ask. The Pentagon would say in Iraq we have about a little over 4,000 now, but that doesn't count what are considered temporary troops. There's kind of on a temporary rotation, which puts the number probably above 5,000 according to some reports. And as a result of, it's one of those things where the president has authorized a certain number, and to go over that, it presents the same political problem we're talking about with, what's a combat mission, what's a boot on the ground. And so I think we're going to see the Pentagon stay by that line. But the second troop in Iraq who was killed back in March, he was one of those temporary troops. He wasn't one of the official troops who was in Iraq.
All right, so we do have still combat operations inside of Iraq. We also have combat operations inside of Afghanistan still, correct?
Yes, we do.
With how many troops there, do you know?
We have
roughly?
about 9,800 there, and that is also a number. We're not hearing much about Afghanistan, but the president right now is planning to draw that number down to 5,500 by the end of his term, and I think there's going to be some resistance, certainly from Republicans, but also potentially from commanders on the ground to cut that number because we haven't really seen the Afghan forces be able to, hold their own.
Pick up. And now, recently, a couple of weeks ago, the president announced that we were sending more special ops into Syria.
That's correct.
Inside of Syria, right.
He authorized up
so we're going to have
200.
I mean, we've been at this for 4 years now, haven't we?
Train and equip. We had
to train and equip. That was the whole
exactly
right.
the handful of soldiers who actually received the training and went through it, and it's been a mess effectively. But the Pentagon wants to try again and try and find some kind of moderate, capable rebel force that can do this and can at least get a little bit of momentum there.
All right. So as I've seen basically the work that these non-combat forces are doing, they are advising. They're advising the Iraqi or the Syrian people. They're training them to use the weapons. They're advising them what targets to go after. They are calling in airstrikes against some of these. How can we say they're not in combat?
It's difficult, as you saw with Josh Earnest on Tuesday. Especially when they are in combat.
I mean, they're in combat.
And I don't think we're going to see the White House stray from that message, short of a significant escalation between now and the end of the year. I think this, President Obama wanted to get out of Iraq. He wanted to get out of Afghanistan. Keep in mind, in Afghanistan too, it's not a combat mission. The combat mission ended at the end of 2014, and we have almost 10,000 troops there. So I think that rhetoric may not shift, even if the mission is starting to shift in Iraq.
And in all 3 countries, they are operating under the authorization for the use of military force passed right after September 11.
That is correct.
The president has asked 2 years ago at least for a new AUMF. When is Congress ever going to? I mean, again, even Republicans who are so quick to criticize President Obama for abusing his executive authority and exceeding his executive authority, they are just sitting on the sidelines while the president keeps sending more and more troops. Now, Congress may vote, okay, this is the right thing to do, or not, but they haven't even debated the issue.
Yeah,
right?
And I don't think we'll see it during the Obama administration.
or at least the president has to get their approval. What is it, within 60 days? I
believe that's right.
Yeah.
And every time we see this as some escalation, we see statements from the right and the left saying we need to talk about this, and it's just there's been no appetite, and it's an election year, of course, so I don't think that's going to change.
Speaking of an election year, Iraq and maybe even Benghazi, but certainly Iraq will definitely be a topic of debate. Can't wait for that first debate between Donald Trump and probably Hillary Clinton. We'll go talk to Jeremy about that and how that might play out when we come back. You've heard the conversation so far. You want to join in? Any questions, any comments? 866-55-PRESS. Yes, we do have, I think you have to call them, combat troops in Iraq, Syria, and Afghanistan. How do you like that? We'll be right back.
Follow us on Twitter @BP Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
The most important issue on this planet right now is to protect and conserve biodiversity in the world's oceans. And I don't think people realize just how intimate our connection is with the oceans themselves. Not only do they provide the very foundation of life and control our weather, but life just simply could not exist without a healthy ocean. The real problem, though, is apathy. It's all out of sight. It's all out of mind, and people don't even think about it. But it doesn't matter whether you live in Peoria or on the coast. The fact is, whatever happens in the ocean affects all life forms on the planet Earth. If the oceans die, then civilization collapses. We all die. We cannot live on this planet without the oceans. This is, in fact, not the planet Earth. It's the planet ocean, but because we're a land-dwelling species, we refer to it as Earth. But it is the planet ocean, and the oceans are the heart and the foundation of all life on the planet.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine, Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora,
Fort Hood, Oak Creek, Newtown.
Newtown,
Newtown.
Newtown.
How many more? How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough. 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 Enough.
Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad, as a friend, as a husband,
As a wife.
as an American.
As an American.
As an American. As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook. Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been, no more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act.
Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 This is the Bill Press Show.
25 minutes after the hour, out to Flint, Michigan, with Congressman Dan Kildee at the half hour. Jeremy Herb with us from Politico on national defense, national security issues. Clearly, most of the conversation so far in the primary has really been about domestic issues, about the economy. Foreign policy is going to certainly play a role in the general. As Donald Trump pointed out, here's his number one goal.
But they're going to be gone. ISIS will be gone if I'm elected president, and they'll be gone quickly. They will be gone very, very quickly.
Believe me.
Believe me.
Believe me.
Believe me.
How?
Because he's going to build the biggest, greatest military we've ever seen.
Believe me.
Okay. Again, how? No, I mean, this. I've never heard him go beyond that they're going to be gone quickly on ISIS.
It's similar to his domestic policy where he has a goal, without really getting into the details. He's talked about building up the greatest military at the same time talking about how he's going to, not have to raise the defense budget to do that and cut waste, fraud, and abuse. It's one of his dances here. And
Is he talking about ground troops to get rid of ISIS? I mean,
he has not said that he would support ground troops necessarily, but it's interesting given, he's really kind of taken, he's taken a more of an isolationist approach to foreign policy as opposed to, being hawkish and carpet bombing them, as, Ted Cruz had said.
Yeah, right.
And so, it's hard to reconcile, being, more America first isolationist versus quickly taking out ISIS.
And he's been extremely critical of Hillary Clinton because of her vote on Iraq, and he keeps saying that he was against the war in Iraq from the beginning. First of all, was he?
Well, there are reports suggesting that wasn't the case. I think it was a Howard Stern interview he did where he said he was supportive initially, and then he came out against it later. But, Iraq is going to be a really interesting part of the debate because he is going to go to Hillary's left on it. He's going to say he was against the war. She voted for the war. So I think foreign policy could be one of those issues where, the debate is just turned on its head.
She probably is more of a hawk than he is.
I think that's definitely fair. She was one of the most hawkish folks in the Obama administration, and I think we're going to see that from her. And I think it might be to her advantage to show that and maybe try and get some of the Republicans in the national security side who really don't like Trump and try and get them to come to her side.
When you contrast the experience of a former Secretary of State, right, and a former United States Senator and a former First Lady, with Donald Trump on foreign policy, I mean, there's just no comparison.
Yeah.
They shouldn't even be on the same stage, but they will be, and that first debate is going to be worth the price of admission. Jeremy Herb, great to see you. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Back with Congressman Dan Kildee.
This is the Bill Press Show.
I have run these canyons for 6 million years. I have traveled from the Rocky Mountains to the deserts, through scorching heat and freezing cold, from the land of the dinosaurs to fields of food.
I lend my hand to 7 states, 2 countries, 9 national parks,
and 36 million people across an arid West.
I am not the strongest or the largest, but I am the hardest working.
People love me.
My playfulness,
my beauty,
my power. My life.
But I don't think I can offer any more.
I am tired.
I am tired,
tapped,
and tied. Of the hundreds of major rivers in the world, I am one of the few who no longer kisses the sea.
Battles to harness my soul have been won and lost. Use me wisely, and I will sustain you.
Use me like you have, and I will break. My name is Red. The Grand River Red. The American Nile.
The Canyon Maker. I am the Colorado River.
And I am the most endangered river in America.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello? That's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
On your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
Here we go now at 33 minutes after the hour. What do you say? It's Thursday, May 5. Can you believe it? And President Obama back at the White House yesterday after a very emotional and I thought very impressive visit to Flint, Michigan, where he really delivered the goods that government has let the people down, the state government, the federal government, the local government, and he's going to stay on top of everybody and everything to make sure it gets fixed. And with the president, the great representative of Flint, Michigan in the United States Congress, our good friend, Congressman Dan Kildee. President Obama came back to Washington. Congressman Kildee stayed in his district, and he joins us on our news line this morning. Hey, Congressman, great to connect with you again.
Hey, Bill, it's good to be on, although I wish, as typical, I was there in person, but it's good to talk to you.
Well, we'll get you back in soon enough, right? But, the question at the White House press briefing on Tuesday, we all wanted to know whether the president, when he went to Flint, was going to drink the water. Well, he did, didn't he?
He did, and we talked about that. He was very clear that he did not intend to perform any stunts. But he was sitting there. The press pool came in. The water was sitting in front of him. They asked him. That was during the briefing. And of course, he drinks water wherever he goes. I think the big distinction is that he did not do it as a stunt, the way our governor said he was, drinking Flint water for 30 days or something like that, right before he took off for a 1-week trip to Europe.
Right. Where he was drinking Perrier or something like that. So, Congressman, from what we've heard, the governor, in fact, we have one of those clips there, maybe where the government failed you, where he said he didn't get that great a reception. Here's just a little clip from yesterday.
You didn't create this problem. Government failed you. And I apologize, and I will work hard to fix that.
A little different reception for him and then for the president, right, Congressman?
I guess one way to describe the reaction of the people of Flint to his comments is that they were unequivocal.
Yeah.
It was very clear. And I was surprised when we heard that the governor asked and intended to speak at the rally. He spoke just before I did, as a matter of fact.
Oh.
But the only thing I can say is that I give him whatever credit can be given to him for being willing to stand in front of that audience. I hope he knew what was going to happen. I heard some of his staff said that they were shocked. All of us knew what was going to happen when he got up on that stage. It's the first time since this crisis became known back in October. It's the first time he has appeared in front of a group of Flint citizens.
Good
so
Lord.
No surprise.
Yeah, they had to expect that. So tell us, what did the president learn at this briefing yesterday? What did you learn? What is the current status?
Well, I think from I'm in contact with the federal response team on a regular basis, so I'm fairly up to date. But what the president saw was, the human toll that this is taking. The briefing was important in terms of getting an understanding of how the recovery is going, which is far too slow, and we all acknowledge that. But I think what he heard from the citizens is their frustration, their anger, the human toll. He heard stories from people about what this has meant to them in their lives. Of course, the point of these visits is to call greater attention in order to take much more significant action. And I think having the president witness firsthand what these people are going through, and then to recount that to people across the country, around the world, but especially at the nation's capital, hopefully will make a difference in terms of how Congress responds. And obviously we think that should move the state of Michigan to do far, far more than they've agreed to do so far.
Right. How has been the response of the EPA, which did play a very important role here? Have they...
Well, I mean...
Go ahead.
Yeah, I think, there's this comment that is frequently made that there was failure of government at every level, and often the EPA is lumped into that. My view is this. To the extent that the EPA failed, it was largely as a result of the fact that they have been constrained by law for a long time. Republicans who now blame them are the ones who basically put the handcuffs on the EPA in terms of their ability to intervene into states. But in fairness, I wish that the EPA had simply exceeded its formal authority.
Mm-hmm.
When there is a crisis like this, when human health is at risk,
right?
I would rather sit in front of a congressional committee and explain why I exceeded my authority to protect public health.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Let them attack me for doing too much to protect public health, right?
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. I was struck, Congressman, yesterday that the president said, in fact, Jamie, that second clip of the president where he talked about it's safe with a filter, but only over the age of 6. Here's the president.
If you use a filter, then it is safe for kids over 6. We're still, out of an abundance of caution, recommending bottled water for children who are under the age of 6 or pregnant women.
That struck me. So is that an excessive amount of caution there, Congressman, or what's the story?
No, I think that's the proper approach. There's a lot of debate as to whether we should be giving advice to folks at all because they had been given advice from, quote, the government for a long time that said that the water was fine. But the president brings with him some moral authority on this question. He's been critical of the state. And we do think it's important that people understand what they can do and be armed with the proper information to make their own decisions. But for children under the age of 6, whose brains are still developing, any amount of lead is potentially harmful. And so until we have the water system that takes us below the action level that the EPA requires, I don't think we can advise young children to drink this water. We're just not around the corner yet.
Yeah, so they are clearly the most vulnerable, and with pregnant women and fetuses, right? That's where we're taking that extra precaution. Now, do you find, are the people of Flint, how are they dealing with this? I mean, do they have the filters? Are they getting the water they need? Are they kind of just resigned to kind of live with it until the whole situation is fixed?
Well, they are living with it, and they're making do. They're using filters. They're using bottled water. Many adults still use bottled water. And again, we want to get them the information so that they can make an informed decision. But many people, adults, still use bottled water. So it's tough. You know, it's not a way you want to live your life.
I'm sure.
And
right.
And of course, the concern is that over time, there's a lot of fatigue with this crisis. And our worry is, unless we get a government response that is robust enough to provide confidence that this will end in the near future, the social, economic impact on the city of Flint could be quite dire. People make decisions every day about where they want to raise their children, where they want to live. Mm-hmm. And time is not on our side when it comes to this. And that's why the president's visit helped to increase the urgency for government action, and I think that's really the most important effect of his time in Flint.
And what are you looking toward? What would you, in other words, how long before you're going to be out of the woods on this, do you believe? How much?
Well, it's difficult to say. It could be some months before, weeks or months before the water falls below the action level. It's been switched back to Lake Huron as the primary source, and the orthophosphate treatment has been applied since December. One of the things that we're asking people to do, and the president encouraged, is it for people to flush their system so that the water moves and it increases the speed at the rate at which the orthophosphate treatment recoats the inner lining of those pipes. It's very technical, but one of the problems we have is that the city of 100,000, which was built for 250,000, that can't drink their water, the utilization is so low that the process of recovery is much longer. So we're trying to speed that up.
But so you think maybe by the end of the year that people of Flint could be able to just turn on the tap and take a drink of water?
It's hard to say, but I would hope it would be before that. The tests that we've seen have shown progress. I know there'll be another significant round of testing this summer, and we're hoping that we get there. But, this is the hard part. That's just step one of the recovery, is being able to have drinkable water. We've got other pieces of this, giving kids the help they need to do well, et cetera. It's going to be a process.
Yeah, and eventually, hopefully, replacing the pipes too. Congressman,
for sure.
The people of Flint were very fortunate to have a visit by the President of the United States yesterday, but they've been more fortunate to have you on the case from the very, very beginning. And as always, we really appreciate your time this morning, and we'll see you back here in studio as soon as you can.
Thanks, Bill. I'm looking forward to it.
All right. Congressman Dan Kildee, representing Michigan's 5th Congressional District, which includes Flint, Michigan. He's been on this full-time ever since.
Get social with Bill Press. Like us at facebook.com/Bill Press Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
Times I've been mistaken for a girl. 1. Ever since I was tall enough to reach the phone perched and mounted against my wall, I was old enough to answer it. And every time I did, I was always greeted by someone on the other end calling me ma'am. And for the longest time, I thought they were saying man because I was cool and hip, man. 2. When entering high school, I found a correlation between girls finding I was cute and long, swishy hair, so I grew my hair out like how optimists never cut their dreams down or how dreamers never trim their hopes short. But this lion's mane became and remained a gender mystery to some store owners asking my girlfriend and I, so, how are you ladies doing tonight? 3. I was always a crier, and with 3 older brothers manlier and tougher than I, wouldn't it be strange to hear shut up or buck up. Uncomfortably familiar like loneliness, hearing stop being a girl was a terrible mantra that I just got used to, like, I will never amount to anything, or I will die alone. 4. Though very far from the truth, my mom, in her traditional ways, believes gay to be synonymous with effeminate. So wouldn't it be odd for her to question my sexuality due to the clothing I wore or how much I spent on appearances? Why don't you go do boy things? How are you going to take care of your wife? 5, when my father found out that sometimes I like looking at boys, he told my mother that he lost a son, and I can't help but think about my sister, who's 6. My mother always complained about having 4 boys and no daughters. 7, my sister was born in 1991, but 8, died 3 days after her birth due to complications. 9, my mother didn't want to have any children after that, but 10, my father said he had a feeling, and I don't know what that feeling was, but I think it was 11, that he wanted to have another daughter. 12, I didn't come out the way they expected. 13, I think I was a failure before I was even conceived. 3, I was always a crier. 14, I was always so mad at myself for being so sensitive. 15, I wasn't okay to play house with the girls. 16, I was never good at cops and robbers. 17, they called roll and said Alexandria. 0, I was a disappointment before I even began. 12, I didn't come out the way they expected. 12, I didn't come out the way they expected. 12, I didn't come out the way they expected. And now, I'm at some variable of a number, wondering if it still makes a difference. My hair is shorter, my voice is a little deeper, and I still might not do things a boy does. Instead, I do things a person does.
Can't catch the entire show? Listen to BP in 3, where we turn 3 hours into 3 minutes. Find it every day at BP Show on Twitter or at BillPressShow.com.
All right, at 12 minutes before the top of the hour, we wanted to bring you up to date on the biggest news of the day, actually, which is Powerball.
Oh, that's right.
Here they are. 3 tickets.
How'd you do? There was a drawing last night.
I know. Yeah, I just checked. No, the Powerball was 3. Closest I came. I have one that's 6.
Okay.
So $6 down the drain again. But, you know, what I'm happy about is I didn't win, but nobody else won either.
Nobody else won.
All right.
Nobody else won.
Keep hope alive.
So Saturday
yes,
is the next drawing, and they're saying that it's going to be $415 million.
All right. That's more my
That's
speed.
way up there.
Yeah, right. I'd rather win that one than last night, so I don't feel too badly. But man, isn't it amazing that there be no winner at all?
That's crazy.
Right?
I mean, somebody's got to win eventually, right?
No. All you need is $2 in a dream. Right. Maybe I don't know why I bought 3. What's the magic in 3? I should have just brought. I have had as good a chance with 1.
Yeah, true.
But anyhow, so I'll be back in, and maybe all of you too. We'll see.
Go for it.
All right.
Yeah. By the way, just an update on a story that we've talked.
I want to repeat. If I win, don't expect to see me the next day.
No, trust me. Yeah, I'll know what happened if Monday morning comes around and you're not here. That you hit the Powerball.
I was even wondering whether I was still going to go to Flint if I won. I had that in the back of my mind. Should I cancel the trip to?
To Madison?
Yeah. I'm sorry, to
Madison.
To Madison
yeah.
if I win. No.
Yeah.
All right. So,
I want to follow up on a story that we talked about a lot in North Carolina.
Yes.
So,
you mean you have to go to the bathroom?
Yeah, if you have to go to the bathroom. That's right. The whole thing with the governor, Pat McCrory, there. The Department of Justice stepped in yesterday, and they sent a letter to Pat McCrory of North Carolina, the governor there, and said that it violates civil rights protection, federal civil rights protection, which is the first time that we've really seen this go in that direction, right? This is the same civil rights protections that we use to get rights for African Americans and things like that.
Right.
We're using it now for transgendered and LGBT, the LGBT community. So the letter says that they demand a response by close of business on Monday of next week.
Whoa.
From North Carolina on how they plan to drop this law. And if not, the Department of Justice says that the state of North Carolina will be hit with a lawsuit and could be denied millions of dollars in federal funds. So they're taking it very seriously, and they're really smacking down North Carolina.
And the governor's response is saying, oh, no, this had nothing to do with LGBT rights. Had nothing to do with. He is such a moron.
But the argument, at the heart of this argument, for people who are in favor of it, say, like, I'm religious, I get to choose to discriminate against whoever I want to based on religious means. And you can't do that with African Americans, which we established back in the day. You cannot discriminate, and you can't do it with...
can't do it with women. You can't do it with anybody. Women, and you cannot do it with LGBT Americans either. And plus, masquerading hatred and discrimination in the name of religion is just...
gross.
Yeah, there's gross. Absolutely. Yeah. And there's no foundation for it, no justification for it at all.
So Monday's the deadline. We'll see how North Carolina responds.
Yeah, and that certainly, I'm sure, has sent a warning shot across the bow of several other states who are considering the same legislation, or who have already have it, in the process or something.
Yeah, I mean, let's not forget, it's not
like
just North Carolina.
Mississippi's
even sweeping the South.
Even worse, and there are other states that are considering it, so good for them. And, of course, this hour, we haven't had a chance to mention the big political news of the day, which is that John Kasich followed the lead of Ted Cruz. Everybody said at first Kasich, even though he only had like 156 delegates, was going to stay in. He was actually had an event scheduled here in Washington, D.C. He was going to start out with a briefing for the media to explain his plans to go forward. Reportedly, Kasich, the plane was on the tarmac waiting to go, and Kasich said, you know what, this doesn't make any sense. I don't have my heart in this anymore. So he canceled the trip, scheduled instead a news conference at the state capitol yesterday afternoon, where he said, I'm out, but the Lord will help me find a new path.
As I suspend my campaign today, I have renewed faith, deeper faith, that the Lord will show me the way forward and fulfill the purpose of my life.
Whoa. All right. Again, this is the same Lord that told him to run for president.
Yeah.
Oops, I made a mistake. Yeah, John, go back to Ohio. But he did get a few props from Donald Trump later in the day when Wolf Blitzer asked him whether I forget who it was. Maybe that might have been George. At any rate, it was Wolf who asked him whether he might consider John Kasich for. Oh, that's right. Wolf informed him that Kasich had dropped out, and then he asked him whether he might be considered for vice president.
I would be interested in vetting John. I like John. I've had a good relationship with John. I've gotten along with him well. But John, whether he's vice president or not, I think he'll be very, very helpful with Ohio.
Yeah. All right. You know what? There's no way in hell that John Kasich would accept being Donald Trump's vice presidential nominee. All right.
No way.
President Obama back at the White House today. What's on the schedule? We'll tell you when we come back.
Your place to talk about the 2016 election. This is the Bill Press Show.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where the ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine, Virginia Tech,
Tucson,
Aurora,
Fort Hood, Oak Creek, Newtown,
Newtown,
Newtown.
Newtown.
How many more? How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough.
Enough.
Enough. Enough.
Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook. Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday.
It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act.
Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 Hey, important third hour just about to come up, so get ready to switch over, if you want to watch it right away, to TawkrTV, youtube.com/TawkrTV, our video stream, or catch up with us again at 5 o'clock Eastern on Free Speech TV, 4 Central, of course, 2 Pacific. We're going to go to the Democratic Senate Campaign Committee at the top of the hour to find out what the key Senate races are and what Democratic chances are to take back the House. Then Cameron Joseph joins us from the New York Daily News. All of that coming up, hour number 3.
This is the Bill Press Show.
President Obama with a pretty full day down at the White House today. He and the Vice President get the daily briefing at 10 a.m. They will have their weekly lunch today at the White House. And then, of course, did I mention that it's May 5? Big Cinco de Mayo reception. That's always a big event at the White House, in the East Room of the White House at about 4 o'clock. And then the President and the First Lady and the Vice President and Dr. Jill Biden go out to Andrews Air Force Base to help celebrate a big all the festivities out there, the 75th anniversary of the USO. They'll be out at Andrews and then come back to the White House this evening. All 4 of them are going to speak at this event. And our briefing with Josh Earnest is at 12:30 today. We will be right back and take a look at key Senate races for 2016.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right. I know this isn't any fun to talk about, but we should. Okay. So who's going to do what?
I'll pack the dead batteries.
Great.
I'll only put what I don't need into a duffel bag.
Perfect. That's totally unhelpful.
No problem.
Meanwhile, I will try to comfort everyone by speaking in a calm voice.
And I'll try to get the generator going without any gas.
Oh, let's not forget the cell phones, which probably won't work.
Right.
And who is going to handle supplies?
I can forget to do a list for us.
Thanks, pal.
Well, I think we couldn't be any less prepared. I'm proud of you guys.
Talk to your kids about who to call, where to meet, what to pack. Visit ready.gov/kids for tips and information.
Calls me googly eyes.
You know you're beautiful, right? You know that?
Even you are beautiful. I got bullied for wearing glasses. Share if you're against bullying.
We put it out there, just took off. 3 million people have shared this post. Don't let bullies get you down. I stand with you. Our whole family's wearing glasses. I wear glasses and I'm proud.
I even have the army on my team.
All the kind comments brought my child joy. I don't feel thank you is enough.
That's
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
I wanted to find a bank with a purpose. I wanted to find a place that would take my money and not use it to cause the financial crisis, but to fix the financial crisis and to help end income inequality.
The people that we employ are usually clients right off the streets. They don't have an account, but Amalgamated is willing to get that started for them.
Their reputation of supporting the working man, I think, speaks for itself. This is a bank that cares for their customers, and I appreciate that.
We were able to access a construction loan through the bank's programs, and that loan has helped us house 28 families in the community.
Amalgamated is a bank that was started for and about working people.
Many of our customers have a deep commitment to advocating for social and economic justice. We share that commitment, and we're not afraid to stand up and say that we need to change some of the way that the country does business.
I grew up in the housing projects of Cleveland. I didn't even know that life could be any better than it was. Education for me has been a way to get away from the agony of what was normal life. I want to be able to impact the community, not just look back on where I came from, but to reach back to where I came from and pull some people up with me. My name is David, and I am your dividend.
The most important issue on this planet right now is to protect and conserve biodiversity in the world's oceans. And I don't think people realize just how intimate our connection is with the oceans themselves. Not only do they provide the very foundation of life and control our weather, but life just simply could not exist without a healthy ocean. The real problem, though, is apathy. It's all out of sight. It's all out of mind, and people don't even think about it. But it doesn't matter whether you live in Peoria or on the coast. The fact is, whatever happens in the ocean affects all life forms on the planet Earth. If the oceans die, then civilization collapses. We all die. We cannot live on this planet without the oceans. This is, in fact, not the planet Earth. It's the planet ocean, but because we're a land-dwelling species, we refer to it as Earth. But it is the planet ocean, and the oceans are the heart and the foundation of all life on the planet.
It's on us to stop sexual assault.
to get in the way before it happens.
To get a friend home safe.
And to not blame the victim.
It's on us.
To look out for each other.
To not look the other way.
It's on us to stand up.
To step in.
To take responsibility.
It's on us, all of us,
to stop sexual assault.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
Broadcasting around the nation, on your radio, on your TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
And then there was just one left. Yep, that's where we are with John Kasich dropping out yesterday. It is Donald Trump, the Republican nominee. Can you believe it? Hello, everybody. The Bill Press Show on a Thursday, May 5. Great to see you today. And thank you for joining us. Thanks for making us your morning show of choice on the radio, your local progressive talk radio station nationwide, and also coast to coast on Free Speech TV. Lots to talk about today, and we're going to get into it right at the top of the hour. The fact that it's not just the White House this year. We've got to be thinking about the U.S. Senate as well as the U.S. House, and hopefully getting both back. We're coming to you live from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, reaching out to you again coast to coast on the radio and on television with our team this morning, Peter Ogburn and Jamie Benson.
Hello, Bill.
Good morning, morning. Okay.
Good to see you. Here we are.
Ray Rogers, ready for your calls at 866-55-PRESS, and Cyprian Bolding, our videographer here and on the job as well. Very, very excited. Today's a big day for me because right after the show, heading over to National Airport to take off for Madison, Wisconsin, so I can join all of you out in the Madison area listening on 92.1 The Mic at a big breakfast with Bill. How about it? Tomorrow morning, 7 to 9 a.m. in Madison at the North Side Restaurant, which is in the Northgate Shopping Center. John Nichols from The Nation magazine is going to be there. We'll be talking Bernie. We'll be talking Hillary. We'll be talking Donald Trump. We'll be talking, I'm sure, a little Scott Walker, Politics 2016, and my new book, Buyer's Remorse, and signing copies of that. Just have a great time. It's free. Come on by and say hello. Really look forward to seeing you tomorrow morning, 7 to 9 a.m. in Madison.
It'll be fun.
It'll be fun. There. Right. And we wanted to talk, well, first of all, yes, we do want to talk Senate races today, at the top of the hour here. And we couldn't have anybody better to come in than the communications director for the Democratic Senate Campaign Committee. They're the ones responsible for leading the fight to get the Senate back in Democratic hands. Sadie Weiner here in studio with us. Sadie, it's nice to see you.
Thanks for having me. Great to be with you guys.
Now, before we get to the, and I got my map ready here, but before we get to the Senate, there is a presidential race going on, and you never know what's going to happen on the campaign trail. Bernie Sanders was down in Kentucky yesterday and making the point about he is the anti-establishment candidate when somebody in the audience actually shouted out and dropped the F-bomb on the establishment. Bernie's response was, I thought, right on target. Here he is.
We have taken the establishment by surprise. And that is one way of phrasing it.
One way of phrasing it. You know what? Donald Trump would have repeated it.
Yeah. Yes. Exactly.
Right.
Yes.
As he had done once before.
He's not afraid of the vulgarities on the trail.
Not at all. All right. So, Sadie, here it is. I was privileged to attend a little luncheon with your boss, Senator John Tester, at last week, and he and Tom Lopak, who's the executive director of the DSCC, handed out this little map of 2016 Senate map. So I was impressed with how good the chances are and how important it is to get the Senate back.
Absolutely.
So, first of all, tell us, how many seats do Democrats need to win to get it back?
We need 4 seats to win back the Senate.
Just 4?
Just 4.
That's good news.
That's great news.
Yeah, I love that.
The map is really good for us.
That puts us up to 50, right?
That puts us up to 50. So that's assuming that we have a Democrat in the White House and a vice president who's a Democrat who'd be the tie-breaking vote.
Right.
If not, we need 5. So not that much harder.
Right. So 4 with a Democrat in the White House, 5 with
conservatively.
If there were somebody else in the White House, right? And then, but 6 would really be. I mean, the more the better, right?
Sure, the more the better. But we're focused on winning back the majority. And I think when you look at that map, one of the reasons that it is so positive for Democrats right now is because of where we're playing defense and offense. And Republicans have to defend 24 seats this year. Democrats are defending just 10. And you look at the seats that Republicans are defending, a number of them are in states that President Obama won twice. So you're talking about Ohio, New Hampshire, Wisconsin, Illinois, Colorado, Nevada, Iowa. So these are good playing fields for us.
Right. Let's start with maybe what I understand is sort of maybe our best shot is Illinois. Would you agree?
Sure. We have a very good chance in Illinois.
Right.
We have an excellent candidate in Tammy Duckworth, just a truly inspiring figure who's going up against Mark Kirk, who I think has major problems.
Put that microphone a little closer to you. Right. And Tammy is the Democratic nominee, right?
She is. She won her primary.
Right. Okay. Up against Mark Kirk. Any polling there, or what are the big issues, or what's it look like?
No, I haven't seen any recent public polling. I mean, look, the big issues is what Mark Kirk has spent his time on in the Senate, and who's he been looking out for? Is it Main Street, or is it Wall Street and corporations? And unfortunately for Illinois families, it's been the latter. But I think Tammy has a very clear contrast to bring with that, especially when you look at her lifetime record of service to our nation, which is really, truly inspiring.
Yeah, a great person and an incredible life story. And we've had her on the show several times, and then she went on to be, she was in Congress, and then before that she was secretary or assistant secretary
she
of the
was
Veterans.
At the VA.
At the VA.
It's been her life's work to take
Right.
care of our veterans.
Right. So she'd be a great United States senator. So if we look at Illinois, what's up next? Give us another.
Generally,
big
people
state.
put Wisconsin up next, where you're headed after
yes.
this.
Right.
Can't forget
Good.
Russ Feingold and Ron Johnson's race when you're on the ground.
We'll certainly be talking Russ
Yeah.
Feingold tomorrow again in Madison.
That's going to be a great race.
He's great person.
He is. He's, there's not many people who've worked harder for the state of Wisconsin, who are ready, who are listening to voters on the ground. And I think you've seen Ron Johnson just be completely out of touch with Wisconsin families. You've seen his record over the last 6 years. He's all on board with blocking the Supreme Court nominee, Judge Garland, from moving forward with hearings or a vote. And that's just not going to sit right there. He's even talked about campaigning with Donald Trump, the Ronald and the Donald, he said.
Really?
Like a Dr. Seuss rhyme.
Yeah, the Ronald and the Donald.
Ronald and the Donald.
Good. Lots of luck with that.
Yeah.
Right. By the way, you are in one of these key states we're talking about. Don't wait. Pick up the phone. Give us a call, 866-55-PRESS, and your take on any one of these people. I was going to ask you whether on 2 issues that they're really going to have to take a stand. One is, you mentioned the both, Merrick Garland, right? Mm-hmm. They're either for holding a hearing, for doing their job or not.
And none of them are for doing their job. Let's put it that way. Mark Kirk has said that, sure, we should hold a hearing and a vote. He hasn't been very successful in convincing any of his colleagues to go along with that. But you look at the other targeted races and these vulnerable Republican senators completely refusing to do their job. And what's scary, really, is that now that Donald Trump is the presumptive nominee, they're ready to hand the keys over to Trump to make this lifetime nomination to the highest court in the land. And that's really scary.
It is scary about to think of whom he might appoint to the Supreme Court.
Yeah,
Whoa.
just think of all the people who are really regretting this whole thing now of stopping Garland.
Now, yes, and the other decision all of these senators, these candidates are going to have to make, these particularly the Republicans up for re-election, is whether or not they're going to stand with Donald Trump.
And again, they've all said they'll stand with the nominee.
Really?
Most of them on film. The DSCC has a great website, partyoftrump.com, where we launched a web video showing some of the craziest stuff that Donald Trump has said, spliced together with one Republican senator and candidate after another promising to support the eventual nominee.
So all of these, by the way, people can get up to date on all of these races by going to dscc.org.
Exactly.
Correct? Okay. How about, shall we jump to New Hampshire? Is that
Sure, yeah.
Okay.
New Hampshire, I mean, this is going to be another terrific race. Governor Maggie Hassan is running against Senator Ayotte. She's terrific. She launched her first ad, her first TV ad this week, which if you haven't seen it, Google it, take a time to look. It's amazing. It talks about the reason she got into public service, which was in large part because of her son, Ben, who has cerebral palsy.
Oh, wow.
And it's a really moving ad, and I think shows, again, a strong contrast in this race. You have, Kelly Ayotte, who woke up the morning after Justice Scalia died and said, I'm right there with Mitch McConnell. We're going to block this nominee from going forward. Of course,
she was
before
one of the first
she
ones
was one
out,
of the
right.
first ones. And I think that that doesn't sit well with New Hampshire voters. We've seen her approvals in public polling go from about plus 16 to about plus 3 in the last 2 months. And what's been the main change there? Of course, her unprecedented blockade of the Supreme Court.
Right. How about Pennsylvania? I'm just thinking of the ones that pop into my head.
Sure, yeah, going kind of geographically.
But and thinking of where Republicans are up, they're the ones that we are targeting, really. Yeah.
Absolutely. Pat Toomey is incredibly vulnerable in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania is traditionally a pretty blue state in presidential years. And he is a former president of the Club for Growth. He has an incredibly conservative voting record on issues that aren't necessarily going to sit right in Pennsylvania. Things like the Ryan budget. He actually introduced his own budget that goes even farther than the Ryan budget that would voucherize Medicare. Just horrific cuts across the board to programs that people really rely on. And so we've got Katie McGinty there, who won her primary.
She's great, too.
Yeah, she's outstanding, and she, she has a great story. She's the 9th of 10 kids. Her dad was a cop. Her mom was a restaurant hostess, and so she was the first in her family to go to a 4-year college. I think that she's really able to speak to a lot of what Pennsylvania families are facing right now.
All right, so that's 4. Where would we go for number 5, do you think?
Gosh, the options are many.
Okay.
Let's go to Ohio. Where you have, Senator Rob Portman, who has, the thing about Rob Portman, people in D.C. know him pretty well because he's been around a long time in Washington. He's really well known on K Street and with the insiders. Doesn't have very good name ID in Ohio. And that's unlike our candidate, former Governor Ted Strickland.
Right.
Who is well known. He's known as Ted in many parts of the state just by his first name. And he's really, he's making the case a lot on trade right now. Because Rob Portman was a former U.S. trade rep. And I think there's probably nothing that shows how vulnerable Rob Portman is more than the fact that he's trying to flip-flop on the TPP agreement. He voted to fast-track it. He said supportive things about it and then realized he had this election coming up, and all of a sudden he's now against it.
Right. Gee, isn't it funny how that happens?
It
right?
is, yeah.
I was just thinking with Ted Strickland, maybe there's some signs around, trust Ted.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
He might pick up
some leftovers there. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, recycling.
You can probably get them pretty cheaply,
yeah.
right? That's good. That gets us up to 5. And after that, you would go to?
Florida's going to be an open seat, and that's going to be a big race. The Republican primary there has been a total disaster. They've got 5 candidates in. They're clawing at one another's throats. We have 2 candidates on our side. The DSCC has endorsed Patrick Murphy. That primary is not for a long time. Right. It's not till the end of August. I feel great about Democrats picking up this seat. It's Marco Rubio's seat now, of course, and he's not running. So I would go to Florida.
That would be a big pickup in Florida, right?
It would be. It would be. And I think especially when you look at Trump as the nominee, just today there was a report that John McCain in Arizona had admitted that Trump's problems with Hispanic and Latino voters are going to hurt him. And so there's a similar issue that would be in play in Florida in the general election.
I do have to ask you about Maryland. With now the primary is over, Chris Van Hollen is the Democratic nominee in Maryland. That's going to stay in the Democratic column.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Would you say?
Yes.
Yeah.
We feel good about keeping Maryland. We feel good about keeping California. Those are 2 of our open seats.
Right. California, of course, we've got the primary on June 7 between Congresswoman Loretta Sanchez and Attorney General Kamala Harris. Can't go wrong with either one, right? And,
no, we haven't picked a side in that race.
Right?
Nope. I think that Californians have a lot of good choices there.
Right. Are there any surprises? I got to ask you. Okay, how about Chuck Grassley in Iowa? I mean, here's the guy
leading the obstruction.
Exactly. Yeah. Here's the guy leading. He's the chair of the Judiciary Committee, and even attacking Chief Justice John Roberts, accusing him of politicizing the process. When the guy's playing politics, it's Chuck Grassley.
Well, today,
Grassley.
I just saw before I walked in, he told Politico he feels good about whoever Donald Trump would nominate to the Supreme Court.
Oh, God, that is terrifying. That's terrifying.
It is. And I don't think anybody expected him to be in this position. And he's seen his favorables take a hit to one of their lower points.
He is beloved in Iowa, and he's been around a long time. Could this be enough, do you think, to bring him down?
I think it can absolutely knock it into competitive territory.
We can get him from a slam dunk to at least competitive. Huh?
Absolutely. People want to see their senators doing their job.
I guess if you can't beat them, at least you ought to scare the hell out of them.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, that's something that we've done, actually.
Yeah.
The recruitment success that we had in 2015 in those battleground states that we've talked about, but also in places like Arizona, Missouri, North Carolina, Iowa, places that Republicans didn't want to have to think about this year, means that we are prepared to expand the map, widen the playing field.
And so you've forced them to compete on more territory than they thought they would have to. Yeah. Great job. So very, very important. 2016 Senate map. You can find all of this again at dscc.org. They're doing a great job there. And Sadie, we appreciate your coming in. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
All right. We'll be right back. Pick things up.
Connect with The Bill Press Show on Twitter. Follow us at BP Show and tweet using the hashtag WatchingBP. This is The Bill Press Show.
This is the story of my grandfather. When I was 19 years old, his right hand was crushed in a printing press. He was supposed to lose the hand, but a young doctor saved it just in time for the war. This is the story of the war. My grandfather repaired tanks. Behind the front lines, away from the cameras, he would pull pieces of dead men from the machines and send the machines back out to the field. This is the story of the war a decade later. Back then, you didn't talk about depression. There was no such thing as PTSD. When my uncle, age 7, asked him who won the war, my grandfather said, nobody. This is the story of my grandfather, the machinist. I have a newspaper from 1981, a story about the Nobel Prize for Physics, a photograph of the winner, a Harvard man standing by his machines. This man is not my grandfather. Beneath the photo, my grandfather has written, I designed and built almost everything in this picture. They worked together for 10 years, but my grandmother says the physicist never even remembered his name. If you asked that Harvard man, there would be no story of my grandfather, just a pair of disembodied hands. This is the problem with stories. They have to leave something out. The editor cuts a line and someone's face fades. The editor says 200 words or less and suddenly a whole family goes missing. The spotlight isn't about the light, it's how it makes everything around it dark. My grandfather's face is erased from every story. The machines survive, but the man who made them doesn't. The machines make the photo, but their maker is out of frame. But we choose where to point the camera. We can choose how to tell the story. We can choose which clothing the hero wears. I could tell you this is a story about a soldier, or I could tell you this is a story about the blue-collar man, but really, this is just the story of my grandfather. I did not know him. I was born too late, but my family tells me his name. Alfred Franzosa. I know that name might only live in this moment. that there are other stories with greater stakes, but still, I will tell you his name. I will repair this old machine. I will let my grandfather live again because I could not know him while he was living. Once, when he was younger than I am now, his right hand was crushed by a printing press, crushed by other people's stories. When it healed, he began to build. He used his hands to build tanks and his hands to build cradles. His hands were the last thing to touch dead soldiers and the first to touch his newborn sons. He built a good family, and that family built me, and now I use my hands to build his story. The story is not a eulogy. A eulogy seals the casket. A eulogy lets no air out. This story is a resurrection. Jesus was not resurrected by God. He was brought back by the people who told his stories. It does not take a miracle to raise the dead, to leave behind the tombstone and take the name with you.
At Earth Justice, we defend the environment in the courtroom. Join our fight. When you take a seat, you take a stand. Earth Justice, because the Earth needs a good lawyer.
This is the Bill Press Show.
All right, 26 minutes after the hour, at the half hour, Cameron Joseph, Washington Bureau Chief for the New York Daily News, here in the studio with us. We'll take a run through 2016 with Cameron. President Obama yesterday off to Flint, Michigan, where he met with local officials and state officials and federal officials. Got a briefing on exactly what the situation is there, how the efforts to bring back Flint's water to protect the people there, how they're going. And he actually, he sampled the local product.
This used a filter. The water around this table, was Flint water that was filtered.
And the president pointed out that with the filter, it is safe for most residents of Flint.
If you use a filter, then it is safe for kids over 6. We're still, out of an abundance of caution, recommending bottled water for children who are under the age of 6 or pregnant women.
So things are looking up there. It was interesting, however, the governor of Michigan actually showed up and actually spoke at the same big rally with the president. Not necessarily the right decision for him, because he's probably the most hated man in Flint, Michigan today. He was almost booed off the stage. President Obama getting a great reception out in Flint, Michigan. All right, with Donald Trump the nominee, where do we go from here? Could he possibly win? We'll talk to Cameron Joseph from the New York Daily News in the next half hour. Coming up.
This is the Bill Press Show.
The most important issue on this planet right now is to protect and conserve biodiversity in the world's oceans. And I don't think people realize just how intimate our connection is with the oceans themselves. Not only do they provide the very foundation of life and control our weather, but life just simply could not exist without a healthy ocean. The real problem, though, is apathy. It's all out of sight, it's all out of mind, and people don't even think about it. But it doesn't matter whether you live in Peoria or on the coast. The fact is, whatever happens in the ocean affects all life forms on the planet Earth. If the oceans die, then civilization collapses. We all die. We cannot live on this planet without the oceans. This is, in fact, not the planet Earth. It's the planet ocean, but because we're a land-dwelling species, we refer to it as Earth. But it is the planet ocean, and the oceans are the heart and the foundation of all life on the planet.
A single ember that escapes from a wildfire can travel more than a mile. That single ember can ignite and destroy your home or even your community. You can't control where that ember will land, only what happens when it does. Get Fire Adapted now at fireadapted.org.
Columbine. Virginia Tech.
Tucson.
Aurora.
Fort Hood. Oak Creek.
Newtown.
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 How many more?
How many more? How many more colleges? How many more classrooms?
How many more movie theaters?
How many more houses of faith?
How many more shopping malls?
How many more street corners?
How many more?
How many more?
Enough.
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 Demand a plan.
Right now. As a mom.
As a dad. As a friend. As a husband.
As a wife.
As an American.
As an American.
As an American.
As a human being.
For the children of Sandy Hook.
Demand a plan. No more lists of names. It's not too soon.
It's too late.
Now is the time.
Before we all know someone who loved someone on that list.
No more lists.
No more.
Who they might have been. No more.
If we had just done something yesterday. It's time.
We can do better than this.
We can do better than this.
It's time.
It's time.
It's time for our leaders to act.
Demand a plan. Right now.
Right now.
You! Demand it!
Enough.
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 Seen on Free Speech TV and online on TawkrTV. This is the Bill Press Show.
All right. 33 minutes after the hour. Here it is. On Thursday, May 5. So good to see you today. Thank you so much for joining us. We're coming to you live from Washington, D.C., our nation's capital. Our studio on Capitol Hill, where we're brought to you today by the Laborers International Union of North America, going by the little acronym LIUNA, L-I-U-N-A. They're building a better America, the good men and women of the Laborers Union under President Terry O'Sullivan. Check out their good work at LIUNA, buildsamerica.org, L-I-U-N-A again, buildsamerica.org. Yes, indeed, with John Kasich dropping out yesterday. I guess T.S. Eliot was right. This is the way the world ends. Not with a bang, but with a whimper. Or was it the other way around? At any rate, it ended with a whimper with John Kasich and Ted Cruz the night before. Cameron Joseph is here, Washington Bureau Chief for the New York Daily News. So it started out with 17. Can you believe it? Now Donald Trump's got the field to himself.
I mean, it's official.
You saw this coming, of course.
Yeah,
from
the
beginning.
I actually,
you could talk to my editors of the Daily News. I was like the one guy in the shop that's like, don't completely count this guy out. We ran the clown runs for president.
Right.
And,
sure.
I mean, my sidebar that day was he's got a real team, and like, don't sleep on him. Like, I didn't think he was going to be the nominee, but I thought he was going to have a Herman Cain-like trajectory where he led in the polls at some point. And
now, what was I forget now. So yesterday morning, the morning after Trump becomes a nominee, what was the cover of the New York Daily News?
The death of the GOP.
The death?
Basically had the grand old elephant in an actual casket.
In a coffin, right?
Yeah,
in a casket.
And so I just say it's really good to be back at the Daily News. We have a lot of fun with our covers this cycle.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. And, we've been covering Donald Trump since early 80s, late 70s. I mean, Donald Trump has been on front pages of the Daily News longer than I've been around. So, we know him and we get him. And I think that we can take the piss out of him in a way a lot of other people can't because we've known him so well and drive him nuts a little bit sometimes. But
that's a good point, actually. I mean, nobody knows him as well as you all do.
And we all know that nobody's as brutal as the New York media.
True.
Most candidates, they can do well anywhere else, and they get to New York. I've seen it happen so many times.
It's kind of fun. I mean, we saw what happened to Ted Cruz, people have been treating him with somewhat respectful fashion, even if they didn't love him. Got to New York, and people just started screaming at him.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's certain, the culture cuts both ways there, but when somebody needs to have the air taken out of them, it's a pretty good city to go to. So.
Right. All right, you wise seer of the political scene, now that Donald Trump is the Republican nominee, could he possibly win?
Yeah, I don't think it is nearly as likely as it was about 2 months ago. I think Donald Trump had a real moment in mid-late February where it was pretty clear he was going to be the nominee, after he won South Carolina, after he swept through the South, where if he's just stopped saying stupid stuff, he could have easily coasted the nomination. I think it would have been even easier than it was. He probably wouldn't have had the Wisconsin hiccup in the same way. And at that point, he and Hillary were tied in the national polls, tied in all these state polls. He was leading in places like Ohio, in Michigan, and Pennsylvania. He was putting in play in the polls. And then he spends the 6 weeks of his crowning, because essentially that's what this was, except for the Wisconsin hiccup. I mean, he's just rolled through all these states. And the day that he is basically officially winning the nomination, he's going to crush Ted Cruz in Indiana. It's basically over. It's a time where he came together in the speech. But that morning he goes on national TV and brings up National Enquirer story and accuses Ted Cruz's dad of being part of the JFK assassination somehow.
Right.
Like, that's the type of stuff that alienates people. Him going after Heidi Cruz, I've seen this in polls. I've seen this in internal polls. Killed him with Republican and independent women. That really may have, single-handedly cost him Wisconsin because they just don't put up with mean and nasty there. And, I think the same, he do not rule him out. I think people are, especially people who've only spent their entire lives on the coasts and in liberal enclaves, don't get what his appeal is. They don't get the legitimate grievances that downscale white voters have that are also obviously conflated and mixed in with some white grievance, and maybe they're blaming the wrong people, and there's an element of racism here. But he's appealing to people who are really been ignored and basically screwed for a very long time, and that neither party has really effectively addressed since probably the 70s, 80s. And I think that you can't underestimate that. And I'm not saying that Hillary's clearly the favorite. She was up 13 in the CNN poll. I think that's a little wider than in reality, but she's clearly up 6, 7, 8 in the polling averages. But economic collapse, terrorist attack, FBI actually charging her with something. I mean, there are things that could happen that could put Donald Trump in the White House.
Right.
And I don't think anybody who's saying, oh, it can't happen. I mean, I give 60-40, 70-30 likelihood that Hillary is the next president, maybe 80-20 if things hold the way they are. But the idea that this is a slam dunk for her, I mean, she's not saying that. Her people aren't saying that.
Who would be the stronger candidate against Donald Trump, Hillary or Bernie?
I honestly think that there's arguments to be made both ways. And I think that The problem with Bernie Sanders is that he hasn't been beaten up for 25 years. And the problem with Hillary Clinton is she has been beaten up for 25 years. And I think some of the attacks against Hillary are unfair. I think that there's this aura of, oh, she must have done something wrong because they've been going after her for so long. I think a lot of it's sexist. I think a lot of it's BS. But there's an element of truth there. I mean, like, the email scandal is legitimate, and like I think that is going to be a huge issue for her going forward. I don't think that's dead. Wait until Donald Trump starts screaming about it every single day, and he keeps saying, I'm just getting started with her, and if he focuses on that rather than, oh, because she's a woman she can't win. The only reason she's here is because she's a woman, and like does smart attacks, which Frank, don't underestimate his intelligence. I think he's a relatively smart guy. That's how he got where he is. Right. Bernie. I think he is a little too left. I think that he has a real populist appeal that is very effective. People genuinely like him, which matters. But people genuinely like him because he hasn't been the subject of attack ads for 2 decades. And Republicans would have a field day with some of his further left things that he's said and done. And he's proven, Hillary isn't exactly quick on her feet, but Bernie certainly isn't. When she came out with some surprise attacks at the debates, and he basically was just standing there like, shocked that she dared do it. Mm-hmm. And if he can't respond to a planned attack from Hillary Clinton, can you imagine Bernie trying to be quick on his feet against Donald Trump? I think that they have different strengths and weaknesses. Bernie is doing better in the polls against Trump than Hillary right now. I think it's probably a moot point because I think basically the Democratic nomination process is basically over. I don't see how he gets there at this point. But the idea that one is clearly the better option over the other one, I just don't buy into. I think the only way to do it is to test it, and you're unfortunately only going to get one to test.
All right, you were talking about both Bernie and Donald Trump do speak to people who feel that they've been left behind. They haven't no attention has been paid to them. They've been screwed for the last 20 or 30 years. Some of the Clinton people now you mentioned and tweeted it this morning, looking for people who've been screwed by Donald Trump to speak up and giving them an opportunity to do so?
Yeah. So this is American Bridge. It's a Democratic outside group. It's run by close Clinton ally.
Yeah, right.
Official wall. But so they got this new website called Donald Trump.
It's part of the Clinton universe.
Right.
For sure.
The grand web of exactly. So they got this new website, DonaldTrumpScrewedMe.com, and it's kind of this pretty funny.
It's kind of funny.
Yeah. It's A-grade trolling. I mean, they're trolling for Donald Trump people who work at his properties, who have been treated badly, who have grievances, to submit stories through this website. But they're also trolling Donald Trump. What they're doing is they have launched this website and they are geo-targeting so that on Donald Trump's properties, basically where Donald Trump lives, Trump Tower, Mar-a-Lago, if you're on those properties and you Google something, that's the top Google ad, basically. And so they've really micro-targeted this. And I think honestly, part of it is so that part of the reason they did this is so folks like us talk about it, and get, some free play out of it. But also I think they're trying to get under Donald Trump's skin. And if they have somebody, some maid who's treated terribly, or some construction worker who, some, undocumented immigrants who worked at some property, anything like that pops like that. And obviously this is a small part of their big opposition research file that they're building. But I mean, they're going to try and turn Trump into a villain. And frankly, Donald Trump's biggest strength vis-a-vis Clinton right now is some people really think, we've been taken advantage of. Donald can stand up for us. He's not bought and paid for, and he'll fight for the little guy, which is the argument he's been making this whole campaign. If they can show that when he had the opportunity to make money off the little guy, and we've seen some of this with Trump University, we've seen some of this with the stories about him trying to evict that little old lady from that house so he could have a limo lot in Atlantic City. But that's just the start. And they're going to try and do to him what they did to Mitt Romney, and just basically show him, Mitt Romney is the corporate raider. They're going to try and show him as, the bully who beat up on the poor people when he had the chance. And if they can effectively do that, I think this race is over.
Right. That's a big question when we come back, because that from the moment it looked like Donald Trump might actually survive this whole process, that they've been doing the Oppo research, as they call it, on Donald Trump. Why haven't we seen any of it yet? When's it going to land, and what might we learn? 866-55-PRESS is our toll-free number to join the conversation on that question. Do you think Donald Trump could actually win this thing? Why and how? We'll be right back with Cameron Joseph from the New York Daily News.
on your radio, on TV, and online. This is The Bill Press Show.
It occurred to me tonight, for the first time, that the long-winged insect that over and over again rams its body into the wood of my front door might not know what he's doing. He might not have a plan. Maybe that's just how he flies, and that is where the door is. And I remember you. The last time I saw you, a few weeks before we would graduate from high school, and a few days before you let a bullet dissolve on your tongue, dancing in a warehouse rave, sweat-drenched and strobe light battered, thrashing your arms back and thrusting them forward. The floor could get so bright and loud, we all slowed down to be more careful, but you kept dancing full sprint tornado, and sometimes you'd spin full weight into a wall and just spread your arms against it and sway back and forth like a lover reunited. This long-winged insect is not trying to get into the house. It doesn't know there is a house. Can't imagine a life beyond that door. All it can see is the light. You and I were both 17 when you died. And ever since then, I have envied you. How you are remembered for towering, unclaimed potential instead of living to look regret in the face. You didn't have to come home 3 weeks later and explain to your little brother why you took too much medicine. Your addiction is remembered as a tragedy, not a betrayal. Your suicide attempt became a suicide, not an unpaid hospital bill. And only tonight did it occur to me that maybe that night when you let your teeth touch metal, you might not have known what you were doing. You might not have had a plan. Maybe you had hit that door so many times you couldn't imagine it might let you through. I'm still ashamed to admit it, but I have always secretly believed you did it for me, that you wanted to show me that there is a way out of all of this. Not so that I would follow you, but so I would understand that every day that I am alive is a day that I choose to be alive. And when the music stops, you still get to keep on dancing. And when the light is so bright it blinds, you can dance with your eyes closed. And if in that dark you come up against a wall, you keep your arms out wide and you dance with the wall.
TawkrTV. This is The Bill Press Show.
All right, 13 minutes now before the top of the hour. Yes, indeed, it is the Bill Press Show. Politics 2016 taking a new turn this week after the Indiana primary, certainly when Ted Cruz jumps out. John Kasich, we thought he was going to stay in for a little while yesterday, and then he changed his mind. He drops out. Now it is all Donald Trump. Cameron Joseph is here from the New York Daily News. And Cameron, before we get back to some of the other questions here, Bob has a comment from out in Madison, Wisconsin, where I am headed right after this show today.
Lucky you.
Hello, Bob.
Hi, Bill. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
The thing is that we need jobs. It's jobs, jobs, jobs. You remember when Bill Clinton got elected, they were talking about jobs. That's James Carville. You need James Carville and Chris Matthew. And you need attack dogs like them. The thing is that Donald Trump is not going to bring any jobs to the United States. He's conning people. He's a con man. So he...
Oh, sorry, Bob. We lost Bob.
Whoa. What happened to his phone there?
He went underwater.
I guess it sounds like he went underwater. All right, Bob. I'll tell you what. We will continue this conversation tomorrow between 7 and 9 at the Northside Restaurant in the Northgate Shopping Center in Madison, Wisconsin. And I'll see you there. So, Cameron, I want to come back to this Oppo research. I am dying to know. There's got to be so much dirt in Donald Trump's background here. And let's stay away from the personal stuff. Just on the business level, right? How many bankruptcies? How many bad deals has he made?
Not to mention the alleged mob ties.
Well, I was going to say, and he's making deals with whom? I mean, it's got to be. Got to be tons of stuff there.
I'm
right?
just saying, when a town is known best for like sad Bruce Springsteen songs and failed casinos, there's and mob tie. Like Donald Trump ran a lot of things in Atlantic City and like ran it at a time where like the only way, in all fairness, like I think the only way to do business in certain sectors in Atlantic City was to work with some pretty unsavory characters. But he chose to do it, and I think there's a lot to dig up there, and they've been working pretty hard at it. I mean, some of this is part of public record. Some of this is these things were reported on in the 80s. Donald Trump's been a public figure. There's been a couple of unauthorized biographies where he denies everything, but some serious journalism in those biographies. I think the real question at this point is, what we saw in the primary was no matter what came out about Donald Trump, his people weren't going to abandon him. We're shifting to the general. I don't think the same thing is going to be true this time. I think that even though people know Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton very well and both their negatives are through the roof, new attacks can stick. I think the real question here, though, is Donald Trump's negatives are the highest of any presidential candidate since modern polling began.
Right, yeah.
In a century of modern polling, really since the 30s. And Hillary Clinton's number 2. And
this is a reality that we've never faced before, where the two, looks like the two nominees, right?
This is the best we can
are
do.
Or probably the two most unpopular politicians or political figures in the country.
Yeah. And I think we're just getting started because, frankly, both of their playbooks are not, let's show how wonderful a person I am. I mean, I think with Hillary, I think she's been working very hard at improving her image and, showing her personal side. And, frankly, from everyone I've talked to who knows her pretty well, including people who don't agree with her politically, say she is much warmer, much better in person. I've seen that myself when I'm in a room with her where she's talking to people she actually wants to talk to. Does not come across well on camera, but she's been working hard at that. But this race is going to be about who can tear the other one apart. And we every 4 years, so I don't want to dwell on this too much. We say, this is going to be the most negative race in history, and the 2012 Obama-Romney race is pretty nasty, and 2004 certainly got pretty dark. And 88 with the pretty race baity ads that Lee Atwater ran. But I think this is going to be because Donald Trump will say anything.
Yeah.
Be like
literally anything.
Literally anything. And Hillary Clinton's people are knife fighters in phone booths. They love this. They live for this. They've done it for 3 decades. That's why they're still standing next to her, because they've gotten her through this so far. This is going to be the nastiest race. I think that right now we're seeing the base, not the ceiling of the unfavorable numbers for both of these candidates. This is and I think the most likely outcome here is Hillary Clinton comes out of this beaten to hell and the president, and then we go into this, the GOP is eating itself after the election. Nobody likes Hillary, and the city is even less functional than it's been. I think this whole idea that once we get Obama out of office, people, the fever will break, we'll go back to this being a functional city. It's only going to get worse from here, is my prediction.
Thank you very much, Cam.
Yeah.
Next time we'll have you come in and read the book of Revelations to read something a little more uplifting.
Right. Who needs coffee when you got the Sturm und Drang of Cameron Joseph?
I was going to say, on that note, I am moving to Canada.
Yeah, seriously.
I don't care who wins. I'm moving to Canada.
I mean,
am
I wrong?
No. I don't think you're wrong.
I could not say that you are definitely wrong. I'd even find it hard to do a rebuttal. But fortunately, I don't have time either. Cameron Joseph, good to see you, my friend. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks for having me on.
All right, come back in again. Cheers.
Sunshine.
Cheers up again next time we're down. We'll call you in, right? Okay. Parting shot coming up next.
Follow us on Twitter @BP Show. This is The Bill Press Show.
A letter to the girl I used to be. Dear Emily, every time I watch baseball, a voice I no longer recognize whispers, Ethan, do you remember? When you were going to be the first girl to play in the Major League Seattle Mariners rally cap. But to be honest, Emily, I don't. Dad told me that like it was someone else's bedtime story. But I do know you had that drive. Didn't let anyone tell you to wear shorts above your knees. Didn't care if boys thought your hair fell on your shoulders just right, but with girls, sleepovers meant the space between your shoulder and hers was a 6-inch fatal territory. The year you turned 11 was the first time you said out loud that you didn't want to live anymore. In therapy, you said you wouldn't make it to 21. On my 21st birthday, I thought about you. You were right. At 19, you started to fade. I tried to cross you out like a line in my memoir I wished I could erase completely. And maybe I'm misunderstanding the definition of death, but even though parts of you still exist, you are not here. Most of my friends have never heard your name until now. I've been trying to write this letter for 6 months. I still can't decide if it should be an apology or not. But now you will never hear Emily Smith announced at a college graduation, get married, give birth. When the prescribed testosterone started taking effect, my body stopped producing the potential for new life every month. I thought about your children, how I wanted them too. I let a doctor remove your breasts so that I could stand up straighter. Now, even if I somehow had those children, I wouldn't be able to nourish them. My body is obsolete, scarred cosmetic, but never C-section. I was 4 days late. They will never be grandparents. I was 1 week late. They will never hold their lover's sleeping figure. I was 11 days late. They will never breathe in a sunset and a sunrise in the same night. I was 2 weeks late. They will never learn to jump rope. I was 3 weeks late. They will never shout, "Watch, Mommy, watch me on the slide." I was 2 months late. A piece of us will never wrap their arms around our leg for comfort, but just to keep them from falling down. And I am sorry that this process is so slow, and all you can do is wonder if you ever had a place. You did. You still do. Don't forget that. Yours, Ethan. P.S. I never hated you.
Nothing kills.
The Parting Shot with Bill Press. This is The Bill Press Show.
Well, you know, you can call Donald Trump any name in the book. Clown, buffoon, jerk, racist, misogynist, and you'd be right. But today you can call him the Republican nominee for president, and you'd be right about that too. As unbelievable as it may seem, today's Republicans have decided to turn the party of Lincoln, the great unifier, into the party of Trump, the great divider. He's the first candidate since Dwight Eisenhower to run for president, never having served in political office before, not even dog catcher. He's also not only the least experienced, he's also the least qualified, the least knowledgeable, and the least trustworthy candidate in our lifetime. In fact, I don't know why Republicans trust him at all. He's only been a Republican since April 2012, and at various times he's been on record as pro-choice, pro-single-payer health care, pro-Planned Parenthood, pro-gun control, and anti-war in Iraq, all positions which Republicans normally reject. Yep, for years, the Republican Party has been sinking. It finally hit rock bottom. My parting shot for today, folks. Peter Ogburn himself here as a guest host tomorrow. I'll be out in Madison, Wisconsin. Come on back tomorrow for
This is
Peter,
the Bill
and I'll see you
Press
in
Show.
Madison.